Chapter 624. This woman had a peerless grace and was extremely beautiful. She was so beautiful that she could cause the downfall of cities and countries. She was wearing a black dress, revealing a pair of snow-white slender thighs, like the most beautiful piece of art carved by a deity. She blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming without blinking. Xiao Qing. At the sight of this lady, Lu Ming's heart skipped a few beats. Subsequently, he was elated. This beautiful woman was actually Xian Yanqing, who had disappeared for more than a year, almost 2 years. Now that she had appeared here, he almost thought that he was dreaming. Oh my, what a beautiful woman! The dandan even forgot to chew the spiritual grass as he stared with his eyes wide open. Lu Ming, I thought I had left you far behind. Not bad. It's been a while since we last met. A crisp voice came out from Xian Yanqing's mouth. Xiao Qing, where have you been all this time? Lu Ming flew over. He was very shocked as well. He had already sensed that Xian Yanqing's cultivation had reached the peak martial emperor realm. That was too terrifying. During this period of time, Lu Ming had encountered many fortuitous encounters, especially in the heaven realm. He had obtained a large number of profound crystals, coupled with the Enlightenment Ancient Tree, which was a heaven-defying item. Lu Ming's cultivation level had soared all the way to the peak of the 9th level martial king realm. However, Xian Yanqing's cultivation was 1 layer higher than his, reaching the peak martial emperor realm. Furthermore, her strength was extremely terrifying, stronger than the sacred stars. Lu Ming did not use his full strength in the short exchange, but Xian Yanqing might not have used her full strength. How did she cultivate? What's wrong? Did you miss me? Xian Yanqing stared at Lu Ming with her big eyes, the corners of her mouth curling into a smile. Of course, we've been married for a long time. Of course I missed you when you suddenly disappeared. I couldn't even eat or sleep. Lu Ming said with a smile. Nonsense, who's been married for a long time? Humph, taking advantage of me as soon as we met. Xian Yanqing rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. Her smiling face blushed a little. However, deep in her eyes, there was joy. It had been a long time since they last met. Xiao Qing, tell me the truth. Where have you been? Your cultivation has improved so much. If I hadn't worked hard, I would have been surpassed by you this time. Lu Ming asked curiously. Sigh. Xian Yanqing let out a sigh as she said with a complicated look. I went to a place I didn't want to go, so I found a chance to come out. Oh, did you miss me and come out to look for me? Lu Ming chuckled. Who's thinking about you? Dream on. Xian Yanqing blushed and glared at Lu Ming. Shameless. This guy is shameless. Pretty girl. Don't listen to him. This guy always says that when he sees pretty girls. Dan and Dawn eyes rolled. Xian Ni angrily. This little tortoise. Lu Ming, when did you raise a little tortoise? It's quite cute, isn't it? Xian Yanqing looked at Dan and Dawn eyes. Ha, beautiful lady, listen carefully. I'm not an ordinary tortoise. I'm the leader of the top 10 battle beasts. My combat strength is peerless. I'm proficient in astronomy, geography, and the way of inscription. I can give you whatever you want. Coincidentally, I'm lacking a maid. Nestle, brat, what are you doing? Dan and Dawn hands behind its back, looking proud. Before it could finish its words, it was slapped back by Lu Ming. Boy, how dare you slap me? How dare you? I'll bite. Dandan glared at Lu Ming, bared its teeth, and suddenly pounced on Lu Ming, wanting to bite Lu Ming's finger. Lu Ming pinched Dandan's head and lifted it into the air. Dandan's short limbs kept struggling in the air, and its eyes were about to spit fire. Seeing that it was about time, Lu Ming put Dandan down. Ah, boy, you're finished. You're completely finished. How dare you pinch my head? You're finished. Dan and Dawn screamed nonstop. Sigh. I don't have any elixirs recently. I'll have to use them sparingly. Lu Ming sighed. Dandan Dawn screeching stopped abruptly. Its eyes were wide open, and its shell kept moving up and down. It was obviously angry. Ha ha, Siet Nianqing Dawn laughed. Your pet tortoise is really interesting. Xian Yanqing Dawn laughed. Beauty, I'm not a pet. I'm a top 10 battle. Before it could finish its words, Lu Ming took out a level 5 spiritual herb and threw it to Dandan Dawn to shut up. Xiao Qing, how did you find me? Lu Ming Dawn asked. It wasn't easy to find you. I first went to the East Branch Palace of the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace and sparred with that old man, Mu Zheng. That old man was stubborn and didn't say anything at first. Later, Jian Fengyan recognized me, and that old man told me that you had returned to the Sun Empire. That's when I found Hua Qi. Hua Qi told me that you were at the Lu family. So I went to the Lu family and coincidentally saw you here. Xian Yanqing Dawn explained. Lu Ming Dawn smiled bitterly and mourned for Mu Zheng. It seemed like Xian Yanqing Dawn had definitely messed things up in the East Branch Palace. Let's go back to the Lu family first. My parents miss you a lot. Lu Ming Dawn smiled faintly. What do your parents miss me for? Xian Yanqing Dawn, lips curled up into a smile, and her eyes were like autumn water. After 2 years, Xia Nianqing Dawn was almost 20 years old. She was even more beautiful than before. Her figure was amazing. She had lost some of her youthfulness and gained a mature charm. She was shockingly beautiful. She seemed to be even more beautiful than Mulan's and Autumn Moon. The two of them walked side by side and headed back to the Lu family. Lu Ming Dawn and Xia Nianqing Dawn landed in the courtyard of the Lu family head residence. Father, Mother, I'm back. Lu Ming Dawn called out. Ming is back. Two figures walked out of the room. They were Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. After more than 2 months, Lu Yuntian's cultivation had completely recovered to the martial Grand Master realm. Furthermore, he had surpassed his previous cultivation, and his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He had reached the rank 7 Martial Grand Master Realm. Destruction before re-establishment. Lu Yuntian's talent was originally very high. After experiencing so much over the years, his martial heart was strong and unwavering. His comprehension of the martial Tao was also very deep. His cultivation naturally improved at an astonishing rate. Moreover, just a few days ago, Lu Yuntian had comprehended the fire force. Lu Yuntian and Li Ping's gaze swept past Lu Ming Dawn and then landed on Xian Yanqing Dawn. The two of them were stunned at first, then they were overjoyed. Miss Nianqing, it's Miss Nianqing. Li Ping called out. Nianqing greets Uncle and Auntie. Congratulations to Uncle for recovering your cultivation. Xian Yanqing Dawn bowed. She could naturally tell at a glance that Lu Yuntian's cultivation had already recovered. Ha ha, Miss Nianqing, there's no need to be so polite. It's been a long time. I'll get someone to prepare a banquet to welcome Miss Nianqing back. Lu Yuntian laughed. Thank you, Uncle, Xian Yanqing Dawn said. Why are you so polite this time? Lu Ming Dawn looked at Xian Yanqing Dawn in surprise. She had never been so polite before. Xian Yanqing Dawn's face turned slightly red. She glared at Lu Ming and said, It's none of your business. Ha ha, Lu Yuntian laughed. Li Ping's eyes scanned Xia Nianqing Dawn body, looking very satisfied. Chapter 6:25. A day later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stood side by side on Emerald Cloud Peak outside Windy Fire City. Lu Ming, what are your plans after this? Xian Yanqing asked. How about leaving Tianxian Domain and going to a wider world to train and cultivate? Do you want to come with me? Lu Ming's eyes were deep and seemed to be able to penetrate space. He looked into the distance, and his eyes were filled with anticipation. Tianxian Domain was too small after all. The outside world was more exciting. Tianxian Domain only had one saint star on the list of top 1,000 talents in Eastern Wilderness, and it was ranked last. What about the other geniuses? How powerful were they? How powerful were they? Lu Ming wanted very much to see if he could clash with those unparalleled geniuses so that he could become stronger. Upon hearing Lu Ming's words, the corners of Xian Yanqing's lips curled up slightly. There was a smile on her face as she said, "Sure, of course I want to be with you. I haven't fulfilled my promise to myself back then." "Promise? What promise?" Lu Ming asked curiously. "To defeat you and trample you under my feet, of course. You can't run away." Xian Yanqing chuckled. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. This girl still remembers that. How long has it been? It seems that this woman is really petty. She's too vengeful. Lu Ming muttered to himself. However, he still felt a sense of urgency. Xian Yanqing's improvement was too shocking. If he was slower, he would be surpassed by Xian Yanqing. Furthermore, during the time that Xian Yanqing had disappeared, the martial skill that he had cultivated had undergone some changes. It seemed to have become even more shocking. Where did she go? Did she break into a secret place or go back to her own home? If she went back to her own home, then her family background is amazing. Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing and pondered. However, Xian Yanqing obviously didn't want to talk about her family background, so he didn't ask. "What are you looking at?" Xian Yanqing rolled his eyes at him. Then his eyes flashed as if he had thought of something. He asked, "Lu Ming, have you found the secret of the martial emperor's treasure that your father mentioned? Are you talking about this?" A jade, sword the length of a finger, appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Xian Yanqing's eyes lit up. A jade, sword the length of a finger, also appeared in his hand. It was almost the same as the one in Lu Ming's hand. Wang, Wang. The two infused their quintessence at the same time. The jade swords lit up, and a map appeared on each of the jade swords. On the map, there was a route that led to a destination. Both of them had the same destination. "It seems like there are quite a lot of these jade swords," Lu Ming said. "As far as I know, this jade sword should be the key to the martial emperor's treasure. There should be 9 of them, and they should be scattered all over the eastern wasteland. Only by gathering all 9 of them can one find the martial emperor's treasure," Xian Yanqing said. 9. Then we only have 2. It seems like there's no hope for the martial emperor's treasure. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. "No, 9. 8 have already appeared," Xian Yanqing said. 8 of them have appeared. How do you know? Lu Ming asked curiously. "Lu Ming, didn't you study this jade sword when you got it?" Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming speechlessly. "Ahem, I didn't study it much." Lu Ming coughed awkwardly. He really didn't study it much. Previously, he had focused on improving his cultivation to defeat the sacred star. Later, he focused on studying the inscription Tao, so he really didn't study this jade sword. Xian Yanqing glanced at Lu Ming speechlessly and said, "Look, don't you see a few faint inscriptions on the hilt of this jade sword?" Lu Ming looked at it carefully and really saw some faint inscriptions. There are a total of 9 inscriptions on it. They represent 9 keys. Right now, 8 of them are flickering with light. That means that 8 keys have appeared and landed in different people's hands. And this map points to the destination, which is in the chaotic astral ocean. I guess the other people who have the keys will definitely go to the chaotic astral ocean. How about going directly to the chaotic astral ocean? Xian Yanqing said. Chaotic astral ocean? Lu Ming's eyes moved. The chaotic astral ocean was extremely famous in the eastern wasteland. It was a vast inland sea, more than 10 times bigger than the Tianxian domain. In the chaotic astral ocean, there were islands dotted with stars. Countless martial experts resided in that sea area. From the name, one could tell that the chaotic astral ocean referred to this inland sea area, which was extremely chaotic and where countless vicious people gathered. This was because this was neither the territory of the Emperor Heaven Divine Palace, nor the Heavenly Corpse Sect, nor the Heavenly Monster Valley. It was difficult for the several overlord forces to conquer this place. Therefore, all the experts who offended these overlord forces hid in the chaotic astral ocean, and no one could find them. In addition, there were countless large and small forces in the chaotic astral ocean, causing this area to be extremely chaotic and full of killing. It was common for people to draw their swords and kill people because of a disagreement. "You're not afraid, are you?" Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming with a faint smile. Lu Ming smiled and said, "The chaotic astral ocean is exactly what I want." Lu Ming had the 9 dragons bloodline, so this place was most suitable for him. "Okay, then when do you plan to set off?" "In 2 days, we'll set off." It had been a few months since they returned. It was time to leave. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing bade farewell to Lu Yuntian and Li Ping. Although the couple was reluctant, they were happy that Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming were going out on an adventure together. Only by going out together could they quickly develop feelings for each other, right? Whoosh, whoosh. 2 beams of light streaked across the sky and disappeared into the horizon. The 2's speed was unbelievably fast. After a few days, they arrived at Tianxian City. With Lu Ming's current reputation, it was not easy for him to take the inter-province transportation formation. 2 days later, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stepped onto the inter-province transportation formation. The inter-province transportation formation formed a huge whirlpool. With a flash of light, the 2 disappeared from the altar. The Yunfeng domain was a large domain near the chaotic astral ocean. It was extremely vast. However, the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace was not the only force in this large domain. A few powerful forces had established their forces here, such as the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace, the Sky Corpse Sect, and the Sky Demon Valley. They had also built inter-province transportation formations. To go to the chaotic astral ocean, one had to first teleport here, and then fly to the chaotic astral ocean. However, before Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing went to the chaotic astral ocean, there was one more thing that they had to do. To be precise, Xian Yanqing had to seize a treasure from one of the forces in the Yunfeng domain. The inter-province transportation formation in the Emperor Heavenly Divine Palace of the Yunfeng domain flashed, and 2 figures appeared. They were Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. "Nestle, the cost is too expensive." Lu Ming cried out in pain. The Tianxian domain and the Yunfeng domain were 23 large domains apart. The cost of the transportation was 1,500,000 supreme spiritual crystals per person. The 2 of them cost a total of 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. In order to show his manliness, Lu Ming naturally paid out of his own pocket. In the end, he was heartbroken. Now, he was only left with more than 3 million supreme spiritual crystals. "It seems like I have to find a way to get some supreme spiritual crystals. Otherwise, I won't even have enough to use, let alone become a peak king." Chapter 626. The 2 of them left the territory of the Emperor Sky Divine Palace and turned into 2 rays of light, heading towards the west. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was extremely famous in the Yunfeng domain. It was one of the most famous forces besides the Emperor Sky Divine Palace. This force mainly focused on alchemy. They were very famous for their alchemy skills, and the elixirs that they refined were highly sought after. Most importantly, the reputation of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was very good. Every month, the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution would open its doors. Martial artists who liked alchemy could enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and study there for 3 months. During these 3 months, the alchemy experts of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution would impart their experience and skills. All of this was free of charge. It was also because of this that the Cloud Sea Pill Institution was able to survive under the influence of the other overlords. Moreover, they were living a comfortable life, and their strength was getting stronger and stronger. Their goal was to go to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and seize one of their treasures, the heavenly demon fruit. Cough, cough. It doesn't seem right for us to seize other people's treasures for no reason. On the way, Lu Ming coughed a few times. Lu Ming was quite principled. Unless it was an enemy, he wouldn't seize other people's treasures for no reason. Moreover, this force had a good reputation. I'm getting rid of evil for the people. Do you really think that the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution is as good as the rumors say? Those are just tricks that the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution use to deceive the world. I've already investigated it. The things that the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution does in the dark are infuriating and outrageous, Xian Yinqing said, as a cold light flashed in his eyes. What do you mean? Lu Ming asked. Come with me. I'll bring you to have a look, Xian Yinqing said. The two of them flew for a few days. They had already reached the territory of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. The two of them landed in the mountain range and walked forward. There was a small town in front of them. Most of the people living there were ordinary people, but there were a few low-level martial artists. The two of them strolled around the town. How is it? Did you see anything? Xian Yinqing asked. Lu Ming swept his gaze across, his frown deepening. The people in this town are very strange. Most of them have low blood and qi, especially the children. Lu Ming said, That's right. Do you know why? Xian Yinqing asked. There was a flash of light in Lu Ming's eyes. During this period of time, he had made great progress in his inscription Dao. Naturally, his judgment was different. He thought of one possibility. Before Lu Ming could say anything, Xian Yinqing had already explained. That's because the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution often come here and secretly extract the innate blood and qi of the babies. When the babies are born, the qi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution isn't heavy. The innate blood and qi are the most useful. They use the innate blood and qi to refine pills. This causes the babies whose innate blood and qi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to grow up with insufficient qi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. However, for the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, living to the age of 30 is already enough because they have already married and had children. Their children will also end up in the same situation. Perhaps, in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, ordinary people are just some animals that they have raised. Perhaps, in the eyes of the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, these people are just some human-shaped elixirs. Livestock? Human-shaped elixirs? Lu Ming's heart trembled. A cold, murderous intent flashed in his eyes. If that was the case, then the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution were simply a bunch of greedy demons. It's not just this small town. Within 1,000,000 miles of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, all the small towns and villages that are slightly more remote are in a similar situation. Most of these villagers are ordinary people. The strongest are only martial warrior level martialists who have never traveled too far in their lives. They still think that a person's lifespan is around 30 years old. Xian Yinqing smiled coldly. Lu Ming's face was gloomy. These people could obviously live to 80 or 90 years old. However, their innate blood, and chi of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution had been extracted when they were babies. Their lifespan was greatly reduced, and they thought that they could only live to 30 years old. How sad was that? The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution is doing far more than this. They use the blood and chi of the babies to refine pills and then sell them at a high price to martial artists in the chaotic astral ocean who practice evil cultivation techniques. They make a huge profit. Xian Yinqing explained. It seemed that he had investigated the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution very thoroughly. Let's go. I'd like to meet the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes had disappeared. However, his tone was extremely cold. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was located on a majestic mountain range. The place was grand and majestic. Spiritual chi was dense, and it was as beautiful as a fairyland. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was actually a family called the Yun family, because they often opened their doors and imparted alchemy techniques to others. It was called the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. It was said that the head of the Yun family was a sea of soul, realm almighty. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing naturally couldn't just kill their way in. They planned to sneak in and check out the situation first. Over the past few days, the Cloud Sea City in front of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution had become lively. This was because the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution opened their doors every month to impart alchemy techniques. Martial artists from all over the Cloud Peak region who were interested in alchemy gathered there. There were even people from other regions. The two of them came at the right time. Tomorrow was the day when the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution opened their doors. The two of them strolled around the city. Along the way, they attracted the attention of passers-by. It was mainly because of Xian Yinqing's beauty. Such a peerless beauty was rare in the world. Miss, are you going to enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to learn alchemy as well? A handsome young man with a slender figure walked over and asked with a smile. His eyes were fixed on Xian Yinqing, revealing a trace of passion. Xian Yinqing glanced at him with a cold expression and didn't answer. Miss, I'm Gu Huaxiu, the young master of the Gu family. This should be your first time in Cloud Sea City, right? If you don't mind, I'm willing to show you around the city. The young man continued and reported his family background. His eyes were fixed on Xian Yinqing. As for Lu Ming, he directly ignored him. Get lost! Xian Yinqing frowned and spat out coldly. Gu Huaxiu's face instantly darkened. Xian Yinqing actually told him to get lost? No woman had ever dared to speak to him like that. Gu Huaxiu flicked his sleeve and strode away. Before he left, he glanced at Lu Ming with killing intent. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He was completely speechless. He hadn't even said a word and was directly implicated. However, he knew Xian Yinqing. When the young man came over to greet them, he knew that this would be the outcome. The two of them continued to stroll around for a while and found a restaurant to have a meal. After that, they found an inn to rest in. The next day, it was time for the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to open their doors. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing left Cloud Sea City and headed to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. It was very simple to enter the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. All they had to do was fill in the basic information, and they could enter. Chapter 627. Everyone, from now on, you will be studying alchemy in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution for 3 months. All of you should have some foundation in alchemy. At that time, there will be teachers with profound alchemy skills in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution who will explain to you. Of course, you can also interact with the teachers. A skinny middle-aged man appeared in front of the crowd and introduced them loudly. It's still early. Let me show you around the front yard of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. There are some finished pills there. You can learn from each other. The middle-aged man said. Then he led the crowd to the back. The crowd followed closely behind. Lu Ming looked around and realized that there were a few hundred of them. There were men and women, old and young. They came from all over the place. The crowd followed the middle-aged man around and toward the front yard. The front yard was huge. It was made up of several huge mountains. There were palaces and pavilions everywhere. They could vaguely smell the fragrance of herbs. In some places, there were even herbal fields where various spiritual herbs were planted. These herbal fields were guarded by specialized people. These people were either skilled in the water essence or the wood essence. They were the most suitable for cultivating spiritual herbs. Lu Ming, there should be an assessment later. It will test your alchemy skills. Can you do it? Xie Nianqing asked in a low voice. I should be able to. Lu Ming said. In the path of inscription, there were different preferences. There were several major branches. For example, there were those who preferred crafting weapons, those who preferred alchemy, and those who preferred inscription formations. However, they all had one thing in common, which was that they needed to use spiritual fire and inscriptions. During this period, Lu Ming's inscriptions were no longer a problem. The number of level 1 to level 3 inscriptions that he had mastered was enough to make those old monsters who had studied inscriptions for hundreds or thousands of years blush with shame. Alchemy not only required inscriptions, but also the identification of spiritual herbs and the knowledge of the prescription. In the past 2 months, Lu Ming had learned from Dandan about a dozen of the most common alchemy methods. He had also tried to refine them when he had the time. His skills were not bad. As long as the test was not too difficult, Lu Ming believed that he could do it. Really? Xie Nianqing was skeptical. In her impression, Lu Ming was a pure martial artist. He didn't practice the art of inscription. Have you ignited your spiritual fire? Xie Nianqing asked. Yes, a few months ago. Lu Ming answered honestly. Only a few months. Xie Nianqing pursed his lips. However, the good thing was that even if he failed in alchemy later, he wouldn't be chased out. He could still stay and learn. It was just that the treatment would be different. The group passed by a small bridge and flowing water, passing by pavilions, terraces, and pavilions. Following the middle-aged man, they arrived at a large hall. As soon as everyone arrived at the main hall, they smelled the medicinal fragrance. In the main hall, there were shelves. On the shelves, there were small jade boxes with pills placed on them. These elixirs were refined by the disciples of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. You can take a look and verify your own alchemy skills. The middle-aged man said. Everyone looked around casually in the main hall. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing also looked at the side. The elixirs here were from level 1 to level 4. Each of them was full in color, round, and had a medicinal fragrance that made people feel comfortable. On the surface of many elixirs, there were fine inscriptions inscribed on them. They looked very beautiful. Golden Crow Pill, Energy Nurturing Pill, Wood Returning Pill. Lu Ming saw at least dozens of different elixirs. These elixirs are full in color and have high purity. It's a pity that the inscriptions are still a little lacking, so the fusion of the spiritual herbs hasn't reached a perfect level. The medicinal effects are also a little lacking. Lu Ming picked up an energy nurturing pill and looked at it. He whispered as he looked, "This is still lacking? Is it true?" Xie Nianqing was speechless. Lu Ming had only been in contact with the path of inscription for a few months. Could he really tell the difference between the quality of the elixirs? Humph, what a boastful man. Most of these elixirs were refined by the elite disciples of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Each of them is full in color, and the inscriptions are very profound. Each of these elixirs is of high quality. Even if I were to refine them, they would only be slightly better. What do you know?" A sarcastic voice was heard. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and saw a young man in a blue robe sneering at him. The young man in a blue robe was Gu Huaxiu, who had tried to hit on Xie Nianqing the day before, but was rejected. After he finished speaking, Gu Huaxiu turned to look at Xie Nianqing and said, "Miss, this friend of yours is really nothing much. He's all talk and no real ability. Miss, I advise you to keep your distance from him as soon as possible." Xie Nianqing glanced at Gu Huaxiu casually and said indifferently, "What does it have to do with you? Who I'm with?" "Humph, you really don't know what's good for you. A fresh flower stuck in cow dung." Gu Huaxiu snorted coldly and walked to the other side. Lu Ming was speechless. This old man was really crazy. Everyone watched for a while in the hall. About half an hour later, the middle-aged man said, "All right, it's about time. Follow me." Everyone followed the middle-aged man to a square. "Look, Miss Yun Haitang is here." At this moment, someone pointed at the sky and shouted. Lu Ming looked toward the sky. In the sky, 3 figures were flying toward them. In the middle was a young woman. This woman looked to be in her 20s and was extremely beautiful. She was wearing a tight-fitting red gauze dress that accentuated her impressive figure in a soul-stirring manner. She was a stunning beauty. Most men would be tempted when they saw her. Beside this woman stood 2 old men. These 2 old men emitted powerful auras. "Greater Success King." Lu Ming's eyes moved. He could see that the 2 old men were both in the Greater Success King realm. However, among the 3 of them, the young woman was clearly the leader. The 3 of them landed on the square, causing a commotion in the crowd. Most of the men, regardless of age, stared at Yun Haitang with fiery gazes. "I didn't expect Miss Yun Haitang to personally receive us this time. Could it be that she's going to exchange alchemy with us this time? That's great." It's said that Miss Yun Haitang is not only the #1 beauty of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, but she's also the most skilled alchemist among the younger generation. Her alchemy attainments are extremely profound, surpassing many of the older generation. This time, this old man will have to ask for advice. "Hey, I think you're just pretending to ask for advice. You want to use this opportunity to get close to Miss Yun Haitang, right? You're already so old, but you still don't have any self-respect. So what if I'm old? I can still have my spring when I'm old." The scene was noisy. These stinky men. At the scene, some of the women looked at the men with disdain. "What do you think? Isn't she very beautiful?" On the side, Xie Nianqing looked at Lu Ming and asked, "Yes, she's very beautiful." Lu Ming smiled. "Humph." Xie Nianqing's mouth began to curl up. "However, she's still far from being comparable to you." Chapter 628. Xie Nianqing's face reddened as a faint smile appeared on her face. "However, if she's really in charge of leading us this time, we can start with her." Xie Nianqing continued, "Oh, what do you mean?" Lu Ming was curious. The 2 of them spoke through voice transmission, so no one else could hear them. "I've heard that some of the important treasures of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution are hidden in an underground cave behind the mountain. However, the underground cave is filled with inscription arrays. Only the inscription tokens refined by the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution can enter. There are only 10 such tokens in the entire Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, and all of them are in the possession of the important figures of the institution. Most of the important figures are in seclusion, and we can't find them. However, as far as I know, Yun Haitang has an inscription token. As long as we get the token, we can sneak into the treasury of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and take the heavenly demon fruit. Of course, It's not bad to take some other treasures along the way. Xian Yanqing smiled and transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Oh, Lu Ming nodded and thought about how to get the inscription token. Be quiet, Yin Haitang spoke. Her voice was so sweet that it could seep into one's heart. For men, it was definitely a great weapon. Sure enough, many people's eyes were burning with passion. This included Gu Huaxiu. The fire in his eyes seemed to be able to burn Yun Haitang. This time, you will have 3 months of learning, and I will be in charge of you. Yun Haitang opened her mouth and continued, Of course, I also know that some of you are very skilled in alchemy. You might even surpass me. Therefore, I don't dare to say that I will teach you. In the future, we can exchange alchemy knowledge and improve together. This is the most important thing. Yun Haitang smiled and spoke very politely. Miss Haitang, you're too humble. Everyone in the Yunfeng domain knows about your alchemy skills. I hope to have more exchanges with you in the future. Miss Haitang, I am the successor of the Lu family. I hope you can give me some pointers. Miss Haitang, I am. Some young men with extraordinary backgrounds introduced themselves one after another, hoping to attract Yun Haitang's attention. However, Yun Haitang only nodded with a smile and did not say much. After a while, Yun Haitang opened her mouth again and said, Okay, according to the rules, there will be an alchemy assessment. There's no other meaning. I just want to see your alchemy level and what you're good at. It will be more effective for future exchanges. Does anyone have any objections? No, of course. Everyone shouted. Some of them had even begun to rub their fists in preparation to perform well and attract Yun Haitang's attention. These trash actually want to attract Miss Haitang's attention? Truly a toad lusting after a swan's meat. In my opinion, among this group of people, there is no one who can match Brother Gu in terms of alchemy. That's right. Later, Brother Gu will definitely amaze the world and attract Lady Haitang's attention. In the future, Brother Gu might even be able to win the heart of a beauty. We're really envious. Beside Gu Huaxiu, a few young men began to flatter him. The Gu clan was very powerful in the Yunfeng domain. Naturally, many people wanted to curry favor with Gu Huaxiu. Gu Huaxiu's face was full of arrogance and pride. In his opinion, these people were all half-baked. His Gu clan was a professional alchemist. In the Yunfeng domain, his reputation was only slightly lower than the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. He had absolute confidence in his alchemy skills. The assessment is very simple. You just have to refine a strengthening pill and hand it to me. Yun Haitang introduced. Following that, the disciples of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution brought out several alchemy cauldrons and placed them on the square. Each person was given a spiritual herb to refine a strengthening pill. The alchemy cauldrons and spiritual herbs were the same. Next, it was time to test their alchemy skills. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing casually walked up to 2 alchemy cauldrons. However, they realized that Gu Huaxiu had also walked up to them. This guy was definitely doing it on purpose. He probably wanted to show off his skills in front of Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming. All right, let's start now. You have half an hour. After everyone had chosen their alchemy cauldrons, Yun Haitang announced. As soon as Yun Haitang finished speaking, everyone began to concentrate and began to refine. In the square, wisps of spiritual fire appeared, and the heat began to rise. I didn't expect to refine a strengthening pill. My luck is not bad. Lu Ming smiled. The energy cultivation elixir was a very common elixir. It was a level 2 elixir. Coincidentally, the energy cultivation elixir was one of the elixirs that Lu Ming had mastered. Lu Ming was not in a hurry to start refining. Instead, he looked around. He realized that everyone was focused on controlling the spiritual fire to refine the pill. This girl is actually a level 4 inscriber. I couldn't tell. Lu Ming noticed that the green flame in Xian Yinqing's hand disappeared in a flash. A green spiritual fire represented a level 4 inscriber. The cultivation of an inscriber was much more difficult and slower than martial arts cultivation. It was already very good that he could become a level 4 inscriber at his age. Most importantly, Xian Yinqing's progress in martial arts was even more terrifying. Lu Ming noticed that there was also a green flame in Gu Huaxu's hand. He was actually a level 4 inscriber. No wonder he was so arrogant. Then I'll start as well. Lu Ming smiled. His vital essence swirled, and the lid of the alchemy furnace opened. Lu Ming patted the alchemy furnace, and a wisp of yellow mental fire flashed and disappeared. It surged into the alchemy furnace and began to heat it up. Just as Lu Ming started refining, Yun Haitang's expression suddenly changed, and she looked in Lu Ming's direction. What a strong spiritual fire! What a pure spiritual fire! Although this person is only a level 3 inscription master, the kindling he uses is no small matter. Moreover, the number of spiritual lamps he has lit is also no small matter. For every level, he has at least 4 lamps, and he might even have 5. Yun Haitang's mind raced as she stared at Lu Ming with her beautiful eyes. However, she didn't think that Lu Ming could have lit more than 6 spiritual lamps for each level. That was because he was already a true inscriber. It was too difficult to become a true inscriber. If one wanted to become a true inscriber, it didn't mean that one could light up 6 spiritual lamps for each level. One had to light up more than 6 spiritual lamps for each level. Lu Ming didn't know that he had already attracted Yun Haitang's attention. He focused on refining the elixir. After a while, the cauldron was heated up. He swept his spiritual qi and started to put in various spiritual herbs. The order in which he put in the spiritual herbs was very particular. The time between them and the timing had to be grasped precisely. Lu Ming put in the spiritual herbs one by one. After all the spiritual herbs were put in, he closed the cauldron and continued to pour in spiritual fire to refine the elixir. A moment later, a strong medicinal fragrance wafted out. At this moment, he could start to condense the elixir. Chapter 6:29. Lu Ming's finger began to carve inscriptions in the air. Inscriptions flew into the cauldron one by one and disappeared. What exquisite inscriptions! Yun Haitang's eyes lit up once again. Lu Ming focused, and inscriptions flew into the cauldron one by one. In a short while, there was no medicinal fragrance coming out from the cauldron. Success! Lu Ming smiled. He opened the cauldron and took out the pills, placing them on a jade plate. Lu Ming looked around and found that the others were also opening their cauldrons. Haha, this is the pill you refined. What kind of dog shit is this? No one would pick it up even if you threw it on the road. At this moment, a mocking laughter sounded. By the side, Guhua was holding a jade plate. On the jade plate were the elixirs that he had refined. He walked toward Lu Ming. He cast a contemptuous glance at the elixir pills on Lu Ming's jade plate and said sarcastically, "The color is uneven. Obviously, the timing of putting in the elixir pills is not right. Also, what is this? There is not a single inscription on the elixir pills, and there is not the slightest medicinal fragrance. This is obviously a useless elixir. Haha, don't tell me you don't even know inscriptions." Gu Huaxu laughed, revealing a look of disdain. His laughter attracted the attention of the surrounding people, who looked at Lu Ming's pills. Sure enough, there's not a single inscription, and no medicinal fragrance. It's a waste pill indeed. This person doesn't know how to refine pills. What is he doing here? He's probably a playboy from some family, a toad lusting after a swan. He's probably trying to woo Miss Haitang. Tisk, I've seen many people like him. How could Miss Haitang like someone like him? The surrounding people looked at Lu Ming's elixir pills and whispered among themselves. Young Master Gu, this person is obviously a playboy who doesn't know how to refine pills. How can he compare to young Master Gu? That's right. Look at young Master Gu's pills. The pills are round and full. The color is even and transparent. The inscriptions are exquisite, and the medicinal fragrance is rich. It's clearly a second-grade spiritual herb. No one in this group can compare to young Master Gu. Beside Gu Huashu, the youths flattered him again. Although it was flattery, what they said was indeed true. Gu Huashu's origin-strengthening pill was indeed the best choice. When the others saw Gu Huashu's pills, they shook their heads and sighed. They couldn't compare to Gu Huashu's pills at all. Lu Ming, ignore them. Xian Yinqing walked over and looked at Lu Ming's pills. Her view was similar to the others, but she knew that Lu Ming had only come into contact with the Tao of Inscription for a few months, so it was normal for him to refine a useless pill. After all, Lu Ming's main focus was on cultivating martial arts. Lu Ming rubbed his nose, smiled, and didn't say much. All right, bring out your medicinal pills and sign your names. Yun Haitang ordered. Everyone took the pills they had refined and placed them into a jade bottle. Then they signed their names on the jade bottle's label. All right, you'll follow Deacon Feng to your respective rooms today. We'll gather here tomorrow morning, Yun Haitang said. Then everyone followed the middle-aged man and went to find their own places to stay. After the crowd left, Yun Haitang immediately took out a jade bottle. The name on the bottle was Lu Ming's. Yun Haitang poured out Lu Ming's pills and observed them carefully. Haitang, this is clearly a useless pill. What's so special about it? The two old men said. A useless pill? Uncles, you've made a mistake this time. Yun Haitang wore a faint smile. Her eyes flickered with astonishment. Oh, the two old men were slightly confused. They carefully observed the pills that Lu Ming had refined. After taking a closer look, the two old men's expressions changed. They became somewhat serious, and slowly from serious to amazed. Such a brilliant inscription technique, such a pure pill. The two old men exclaimed in unison. Uncles, you've seen it. The color of this pill doesn't seem to be balanced on the surface. The timing of adding the spiritual herbs isn't particularly precise. However, the pill is very pure, and there are almost no impurities. This means that the spiritual fire of the person who refined the pill is extraordinary. All the impurities have been burned and refined. Also, this person's inscription technique is extremely exquisite. It's completely hidden on the surface of the pill. It can't be seen from the outside, but the combination of the pill is extremely exquisite. It has completely locked the medicinal effect. Therefore, there isn't a trace of medicinal fragrance. After speaking, a green flame appeared between Yun Haitang's fingers. The green flame represented a level 5 inscription master. Yun Haitang was only in her 20s, but she had already become a level 5 inscription master. It was shocking. The green spiritual fire flowed across the surface of the pill. Inscriptions immediately appeared on the surface of the pill. The inscriptions intertwined with each other. It was incomparably harmonious and magnificent. The two old men's eyes widened. They were even more amazed. This Lu Ming is interesting. The corner of Yun Haitang's mouth curled into an indescribable smile. There seemed to be a trace of greed in that smile. As for the other pills, Yun Haitang didn't even look at them. She wasn't interested. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was very big. Everyone had their own courtyard. The environment was pretty good. After walking into the room in the courtyard, Lu Ming sat down cross-legged. He circulated the underworld god observation and started to cultivate his spiritual fire. Lu Ming's cultivation had reached a bottleneck. The 3 ultimate dragon god had been cultivated to perfection. As for the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps, it was too difficult to cultivate to the 5th step. It wasn't something that could be achieved in a short period of time. The 5th step of the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping steps was equivalent to the 6th level of a lower demigod martial skill. It was extremely terrifying. Above the heaven level was the demigod martial skill. It was also divided into lower and upper grades. Above the demigod martial skill was the divine martial skill. Therefore, Lu Ming spent more time cultivating the path of inscription. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. On the 2nd day, everyone gathered at the square. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing arrived together. Soon, a few hundred people had gathered. In the sky, 2 figures stepped on the air and arrived. It was a man and a woman. The woman was naturally Yun Haitang. The man looked to be in his mid-20s. He was very handsome and had a faint arrogance on his face. He arrived side by side with Yun Haitang and landed in the sky above the square. That's the other peerless genius of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. His name is Yun Tsongsheng. Whether it's alchemy or martial arts, he's extremely powerful. He's second only to Yun Haitang in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Moreover, his father is the patriarch of the Yun family, a Sea of Soul Realm Almighty. He's so handsome and has a good background. He's handsome and talented. If I can marry him, my life will be worth it. A young woman said, as if she was infatuated. Everyone, Yun Haitang called out softly. The crowd quieted down. I've seen all the pills that you guys refined yesterday. Sure enough, some of you are really good at refining pills. Even Haitang admires you a lot. I wouldn't dare to teach you. This time, we're mainly here to exchange pointers and improve each other's skills. Chapter 630. As soon as these words were spoken, it immediately caused a commotion. Among this group of people, there was actually someone who had caught Yun Haitang's attention and was able to casually enter Yun Haitang's courtyard to discuss alchemy with her. What did that mean? It meant that Yun Haitang had placed this person on the same level as her. More importantly, he could enter Yun Haitang's courtyard whenever he wanted. As the saying went, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Perhaps he would develop feelings for Yun Haitang after interacting with her more. Most of the men, regardless of age, had a burning look of anticipation in their eyes. Those who knew their place sighed inwardly. They knew that it wouldn't be them. Ha ha, I think Miss Haitang is most likely talking about you, young Master Gu. That's right, whose alchemy skills are comparable to young Master Gu's in this group. I'm so envious. The people beside Gu Huaxiu immediately began to flatter him. Sigh, it might not be me. Perhaps there's someone with better alchemy skills. You should know that there's always someone better. Gu Huaxiu said humbly. Although his words were humble, he couldn't hide the smug look on his face. Miss Haitang must be talking about me. Could it be that she's secretly interested in me? Otherwise, why would she ask me to go to her courtyard to discuss alchemy? Ha ha, that must be it. Gu Huaxiu thought happily in his heart. Congratulations, young Master Gu. You'll get a beauty soon. Someone even whispered to Gu Huaxiu. Gu Huaxiu was grinning from ear to ear. Miss Haitang, who is this person with great alchemy skills that you're talking about? Someone asked. Yu Haitang smiled and said, this person is young and elegant. He's a young talent. Miss Haitang, you're being too polite. I don't deserve such praise. As soon as Yun Haitang finished speaking, Gu Huashu stood up and pretended to be humble. Many people also looked at Gu Huashu enviously. In their opinion, the person Yun Haitang was talking about was undoubtedly Gu Huashu. However, Yun Haitang was stunned. She looked at Gu Huashu blankly and said, "Brother, what are you doing? I'm not talking about you." The smile on Gu Huashu's face stiffened. The crowd also suddenly quieted down. Uffed. After a while, someone could no longer hold it in and laughed out loud. Gu Huashu's expression was too hilarious. Some people tried their best to hold back their laughter until their faces turned red, while others burst out laughing. Beside Gu Huashu, the few people who had flattered him earlier were also frozen in place. Gu Huashu's body began to tremble. His handsome face flushed red. Shameful, this was too shameful. It turned out that the person Yun Haitang was talking about was not him at all. To think that he was still wishful thinking. This was really embarrassing. Also, how did Yun Haitang address him? Brother? She didn't even know his name. Gu Huashu wished there was a crack in the ground, and he could crawl into it. In the end, he could only sit down with a red face. The few people beside him didn't even dare to look at him. The outstanding talent I'm talking about is called Lu Ming. Yun Haitang smiled sweetly and continued, "Lu Ming." As soon as he said that, everyone looked at one another. Who was Lu Ming? Why had they never heard of him before? Only one person opened his eyes wide in astonishment. "Lu Ming, is she talking about you?" Xian Yanqing opened his eyes wide and glanced at Lu Ming in disbelief. She had also taken a glimpse at the pill that Lu Ming had refined. How was that possible? If there's no one else called Lu Ming with the same demeanor, then this Lu Ming must be me. Lu Ming rubbed his nose and said, "How shameless." Xian Yanqing rolled her eyes at Lu Ming. However, she was still very curious. "Don't tell me that the elixir you refined is something special." Hee, maybe Miss Yun Haitang is interested in me." Lu Ming chuckled. "Shameless," Xian Yanqing said disdainfully. Meanwhile, Yun Haitang's gaze landed on Lu Ming's figure as she said, "Brother Lu, what do you think of my suggestion?" Lu Ming looked around and finally confirmed that Yun Haitang was talking about him. He rose from his seat with a smile and said, "Thank you, Miss Yun Haitang. I think it's great." Yun Haitang's face was filled with joy as she said, "I'm very impressed by Brother Lu's pill refining skills. Please guide me in the future." "Miss Yun Haitang is being too courteous," Lu Ming said smilingly. "Impossible, how could it be him? Miss Yun Haitang, are you mistaken?" A gloomy voice could be heard at that instant. Lu Ming glanced in the direction of the voice and saw Gu Huashu. "Oh, how could I be mistaken?" Yun Haitang asked. "Miss Yun Haitang, the pill that this guy refined yesterday did not have the same color and aroma. It's obviously a useless pill. His pill refining skills are a mess. Miss Yun Haitang, don't be fooled." Gu Huashu said loudly. "That's right, Miss Yun Haitang. I saw it too. This guy basically doesn't know how to refine pills." "Yeah, I saw it too." Many people in the surroundings blurted out too. "Oh, you don't trust my judgment?" Yun Haitang asked with squinted eyes. "Miss Yun Haitang, it's not that we don't trust your judgment, but I'm guessing that this guy must have used some method to change the pill. The pill that he gave you wasn't refined by him at all." Gu Huashu blurted out. He initially saw Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming together. He greeted Xian Yanqing, but Xian Yanqing ignored him. Thus he was extremely displeased with Lu Ming. Just now, it was because of Lu Ming that he had embarrassed himself. Now that he had the chance to embarrass Lu Ming, he naturally had to seize the opportunity and not let it go. "Oh," Yun Haitang nodded slightly. A jade bottle appeared in her hand, and she poured out a pill. She held it in her hand and asked, "Is this the pill you're talking about?" Gu Huaxi was stunned and nodded. "Yes, it's this pill." "That's right, it's this one." The others nodded as well. "That's good. I said that Brother Lu's alchemy skills are superb because of this pill." Yun Haiteng smiled. "How can it be? This is clearly a useless pill." Gu Huaxi was dumbfounded. "Useless pill? Watch carefully." The green mental energy fire on Yun Haiteng's finger flowed. In the next moment, lines of inscriptions appeared on the surface of the pill, intertwining with each other. It was extremely beautiful. The inscriptions are hidden, and the medicinal effect is locked. How is this possible? How is this possible? Gu Huaxu exclaimed in disbelief. After all, he was a level 4 inscriber born in the world of alchemy. He still had a good eye and could naturally see the truth of this pill at a glance. The others also widened their eyes in shock. Concealing the inscriptions was not something that ordinary people could do. Only those who had an extremely deep and proficient understanding of inscriptions could do it. This represented a certain level, and only grandmasters in the alchemy world could do it. Chapter 631. Yun Haiteng took the elixir pill refined by Lu Ming and explained, under the effect of the inscription, "This elixir pill is perfectly integrated with all kinds of spirit herbs. Moreover, it is very pure and has a strong medicinal effect. It is more than 30% better than the second-grade energy nurturing elixir." Now, is there anything that everyone is unconvinced about? Yun Haiteng scanned the crowd. No one said anything. How could this be? Damn it! Gu Huaxu roared in his heart. He looked at Lu Ming with murderous intent in his eyes. Today, he had really lost a lot of face. He had embarrassed himself before, and now he was even more embarrassed. He sat down with a gloomy face. He was extremely jealous of Lu Ming. Not only was Lu Ming accompanied by a rare beauty, but now he even had the opportunity to come in contact with Yun Haiteng. His eyes were about to burst into flames. "You bastard!" Xian Yinqing was also speechless. He realized that he could never see through Lu Ming. "Brother Lu, take this crabapple flower. You can enter my courtyard at any time." Yun Haiteng waved her hand, and a crabapple flower flew toward Lu Ming. It was a crabapple flower carved from beautiful jade, and it looked like a real one. Lu Ming reached out to take it and said with a smile, "Thank you, Miss Haiteng." Then he sat down with a smile. "Pervert, you can't walk away when you see a beauty. As expected, your lust hasn't changed." Xian Yanqing snorted and said disdainfully, "You're not jealous, are you?" Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing with a smile. Xian Yanqing's face turned slightly red. He curled his lips and said, "Who's jealous? Don't be so smug. Who would be jealous of you? Humph, go find your Miss Haiteng. But let me tell you, this crabapple flower is very prickly. Don't get yourself into trouble before you can take advantage of it." "Don't worry." Lu Ming smiled and said, "I'll get her inscription token." Everyone. At this moment, Yun Tsongsheng, who had remained silent the entire time, finally spoke. "I also want to learn from Haiteng. Pick a person with great alchemy skills who can come find me at any time to discuss alchemy." Yun Tsongsheng's words caused the spirits of many women to rise, especially the younger ones. Their eyes shone brightly as they stared at Yun Tsongsheng, hoping to attract his attention. Yun Tsongsheng's gaze finally landed on Xian Yanqing. A fiery light flashed through his eyes as he warmly smiled. "Miss Xian Yanqing, your alchemy skills are truly admirable. In the future, you can come to my courtyard at any time to discuss alchemy with me. How about it?" Everyone followed Yun Tsongsheng's gaze and looked at Xian Yanqing. "So it's her. No, Wonder Yun Songsheng paid attention to her. This thought flashed through many people's minds. Xie Nianqing's peerless talent was already in everyone's eyes. Apart from Gu Huaxiu, there were no less than 10 other young men who had approached Xie Nianqing to talk to her, but they were all chased away by Xie Nianqing. Many women looked at Xie Nianqing with jealousy, but they also sighed in their hearts, knowing that they were no match for Xie Nianqing. Not interested. To everyone's surprise, Xie Nianqing's reply was 3 cold words. Not interested. The smile on Yun Songsheng's face stiffened. He had never imagined that Xie Nianqing would reject him so straightforwardly. How could he get out of this situation? Miss Xie, please reconsider. Yun Songsheng's expression turned cold. Not interested means not interested. Xie Nianqing rejected him without any hesitation. Yun Songsheng's face turned completely dark, extremely unsightly. He had heard from others that there was a peerless beauty in this group, which was why he had come with Yun Haitang. As soon as he arrived, he saw Xie Nianqing. Xie Nianqing's beauty had moved his heart. He had wanted to learn from Yun Haitang and let Xie Nianqing interact more with him. After some time, how could Xie Nianqing escape from his grasp? However, he had never thought that Xie Nianqing would reject him so blatantly. Good, very good. Yun Songsheng said a few words, and a vicious look flashed in the depths of his eyes. Then he turned around and left. Xie Nianqing curled his lips casually. He did not take it to heart at all. Yu Haitang glanced at Xie Nianqing. No one knew what she was thinking. Then she said with a smile, "Well, today I will explain some knowledge of alchemy. If there is anything wrong with what Haitang said, you can tell us, and we will discuss it together." After that, Yun Haitang sat cross-legged on a futon and began to explain. Lu Ming also listened carefully. Although he had a good grasp of inscriptions, he was still unfamiliar with alchemy. Otherwise, the color of the elixir would not be uneven. To be honest, Yun Haitang did have a deep understanding of alchemy. Lu Ming was like a sponge, crazily absorbing the knowledge of alchemy. Yun Haitang had been talking for 3 hours before she ended the explanation. The crowd also dispersed. "Lu Ming, when are you going to do it?" Xie Nianqing asked on the way. "In 2 days. I will find an opportunity to take the inscription token," Lu Ming said. Xie Nianqing glared at Lu Ming and said worriedly, "Hey, I say, you can't resist the temptation of beauty." However, Lu Ming suddenly looked at her without blinking. He suddenly approached her and whispered, "Don't worry, I can resist other people's beauty, but I can't resist your beauty." "Pervert!" Xie Nianqing blushed and kicked out. Lu Ming laughed and flew back, dodging the kick and moving forward. "Sigh, this guy, why is his luck so good? He can meet beautiful women wherever he goes. I have traveled across the 9 heavens and 10 lands, but I have never met so many beautiful women." Dandan sighed and was jealous of Lu Ming. Soon, they approached the dormitory. A few figures blocked their way. Gu Huaxiu and a few young men. Lu Ming smiled. It seemed that Gu Huaxiu couldn't hold it in anymore. "What can I do for you?" Lu Ming smiled faintly. "What can I do for you?" "Kid, don't you know the mistake you made?" A young man next to Gu Huaxiu shouted. "That's right. You embarrassed young Master Hua today. Do you know your crime?" Another young man shouted. "I embarrassed him? Haha, what a joke." Lu Ming laughed. "Kid, what are you laughing at? What's so funny?" Gu Huaxiu said coldly, "Isn't it funny? Did I embarrass you? You asked for it, okay?" Before Miss Haitang finished speaking, you stood up on your own. And later, you stood up and said that my pills were useless. Did I say anything from the beginning to the end? You asked for it, didn't you? Lu Ming said with a smile. "How dare you? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been embarrassed in front of everyone. If it weren't for you, I would have come first this time. Gu Huashu yelled. Lu Ming was speechless. He really didn't understand his logic. He didn't have the ability, but he blamed everything on others. How ridiculous was that? Chapter 632. Lu Ming shook his head. He was too lazy to waste his time talking to someone like him. Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake, cripple your cultivation, and get out of the Cloud Ocean Alchemy Court, and I'll spare your life. Gu Huashu snapped coldly. Idiot! Lu Ming let out a sigh. Kid, what did you say? Gu Huashu's expression instantly turned dark. I said, Idiot, get out of my way. A good dog doesn't block the way. Lu Ming snapped coldly. Son of a bitch, how dare you talk to young Master Gu like that? I'll cripple you. Beside Gu Huashu, a young man dashed forward and stabbed at Lu Ming's vital acupuncture points with his finger like a sword. This young man possessed a cultivation of the fifth layer martial emperor realm. If he were to be hit, Lu Ming's cultivation would be crippled. Bang! However, before his sword intent could reach Lu Ming, he was sent flying with a kick from Lu Ming. He flew a few hundred meters and crashed into a hill, causing a cloud of dust to fill the air. Meanwhile, the crowd was startled, causing them to stop and spectate from afar. That Lu Ming doesn't seem to be weak. A fifth-layer martial emperor realm cultivator in the lesser success stage was sent flying with a single attack. I've never heard of him before. Could he be a genius from another district? The crowd whispered among themselves. Gu Huashu's expression turned colder as he said, So you do have some capabilities, but that's nothing before me. Die. Gu Huashu's figure dashed forward and lashed out a palm at Lu Ming. As the palm passed, a loud explosion took place as the force of the palm surged in Lu Ming's direction. A peak seventh-layer martial emperor realm cultivator in the greater success stage. This was Gu Huashu's strength. It was impressive to be able to achieve this at his age. Unfortunately, his opponent was Lu Ming. A spear appeared in his hand as he lashed out. Bang! The spear collided with Gu Huashu's palm, causing his figure to be knocked backward rapidly. Lu Ming and Wei Ran remained motionless. Of course, this was the result of Lu Ming doing his best to restrain his power. Otherwise, Gu Huashu would have been blasted apart by the spear. Lu Ming didn't want to reveal too much of his strength and attract the attention of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Otherwise, it would be more difficult to obtain the heavenly demon fruit, and the other party would definitely increase their vigilance. Lu Ming suppressed his strength to be slightly stronger than Gu Huashu's. Damn it, kill! Gu Huashu roared and charged towards Lu Ming. His palms turned crimson gold as he sent out palm strikes towards Lu Ming. The violent palm strikes caused the space around them to tremble. Lu Ming's spear vibrated as it thrust forward, colliding with Gu Huashu's palm strike. With every thrust of the spear, Gu Huashu's palms crumbled. Lu Ming strode forward, closing in on Gu Huashu. Lose. In the end, Lu Ming roared and struck Gu Huashu with his spear, sending him flying. Puff! Gu Huashu struggled to get up and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he looked at Lu Ming with resentment. Brat, just you wait. Gu Huashu left with his tail between his legs after saying that. This Lu Ming is so strong. Not only is his alchemy skill high, but his cultivation is also very strong. He's already a greater success stage sovereign at such a young age. He's considered a decent genius. Let's not provoke him in the future. The others by the side looked at Lu Ming, revealing a fearful expression. One after another, they left. I thought you would kill him in one move, Xian Yinqing said. It's easy to kill him, but I'm afraid of alerting the enemy. Lu Ming smiled as the two returned to the dormitory. Night fell. In a luxurious courtyard of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, two figures were discussing something. This was the Haitang courtyard. These two were Yun Haitang and Yun Songsheng. Hee, that Gu Huashu has made his move, saving us some trouble. I was planning to send someone to test Lu Ming's strength. Yun Haitang raised a cup of red wine and took a sip before she giggled. A seventh-layer martial emperor realm sovereign at the greater success stage. Not bad, but he's not a threat to us. That bitch Xian Yanqing dares to reject me in front of the crowd. Damn it, that bitch dares to put on an act. I'll make her beg for mercy on my bed sooner or later. Yun Songsheng said in a cold tone as his eyes flickered with lust. As for the woman, don't touch her for now. At least before I get my hands on her. You won't be able to do anything to her. Otherwise, what if you scare my prey away? This Lu Ming, I can feel that his spiritual flame is extraordinary. It must be delicious. Saying this, Yun Haitang stuck out her tongue and licked her plump lips. Her eyes flickered with lust. The action was extremely seductive, causing Yun Songsheng to swallow his saliva. His eyes burned passionately as a certain part of his body began to react. What is it? Do you want to have a go? I'll accompany you. Yun Haitang licked her lips and glanced at Yun Songsheng seductively. However, Yun Songsheng shuddered and took a step back. His eyes flickered with a hint of fear as he said with a smile, "Forget it, I still have something to do. I'll be leaving first." Saying this, Yun Songsheng left the Haitang courtyard as if he was fleeing for his life. Lu Ming, Yun Haitang mumbled as the lust in her eyes grew thicker. For 3 days in a row, there was a different person explaining alchemy to them. Lu Ming's understanding of alchemy advanced by leaps and bounds. His alchemy skills also improved a lot. During this period, Lu Ming also tried to refine elixirs a few times. He could clearly feel that every time he succeeded in refining elixirs, the law of inscription would send down traces of power of inscription to strengthen his mental flame. However, the elixirs that he refined were of a lower level than his inscription. Hence, the flames of inscription that were sent down were very few and far between. Only when refining high-quality pills or pills of a higher level than his inscription would the law of inscription produce more power of inscription. This was very helpful to the cultivation of the spiritual flame. However, it was not possible to reach that level in a short time. During these 3 days, Lu Ming did not look for Yun Haitang. Yun Haitang also did not send anyone to look for him. On the 3rd day, when night fell, a figure appeared in Lu Ming's dormitory. It was Xian Yanqing. "Lu Ming, I'll take you to see something interesting." Xian Yanqing said, "Something interesting?" Lu Ming was stunned. "Follow me. Be careful," Xian Yanqing said. Then, the two of them retracted their auras and left the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Soon, they saw a few figures in black robes flying out from the other side of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution and heading into the distance at an extremely fast speed. "Let's follow them," Xia Nianqing whispered. The two of them followed behind the black-robed figures for hundreds of thousands of miles. At this time, the black-robed figures suddenly landed in a small village. "We have to hurry. We must collect 99 strands of Khanate blood qi tonight," one of them said. Lu Ming felt that his voice was somewhat familiar. They're really here to collect Khanate blood qi. Chapter 633. A total of 3 black-robed men rushed into a wooden house silently. Inside the house, there was a young man and woman who were not even 20 years old and a baby. The black-robed men waved their hands, and 2 streams of true yuan entered the young man and woman's body, causing them to fall into a coma. Then, the 3 black-robed men carved inscriptions into the baby's body. From the baby's heart, a blood-red qi was slowly extracted. Damn it! Lu Ming's eyes flashed with cold killing intent. Although he had heard about it before, Lu Ming couldn't control the killing intent in his heart after witnessing it with his own eyes. Extracting a baby's Xiantian qi to refine a pill, this method was extremely cruel and could kill people. Stomp! Stomp! Lu Ming didn't restrain his aura anymore and walked into the wooden house. Who is it? The three black-robed men immediately noticed someone and shouted, "The people who will kill you." Lu Ming walked into the wooden house with cold eyes. Then Xian Yinqing also walked in. "It's the two of you. Haha, since you've seen this scene, I can only send you on your way. Originally, I wanted to let you live for a few more days." One of the black-robed men sneered. "Yun Songsheng." Lu Ming's eyes moved. No wonder he felt that this person's voice was familiar. At this moment, he guessed that it was Yun Songsheng. "Hee, it's me." The black-robed man took off the hood on his head, revealing a face filled with killing intent. It was Yun Songsheng. Yun Songsheng's fiery eyes fell on Xian Yinqing and sneered. "Bitch, you actually dared to reject me in front of everyone. Do you know that it's your fortune that I'm interested in you? Today, I'll cripple your cultivation and let you enjoy it. Hee. Lu Ming, leave this guy to me." Xian Yinqing's voice was cold, as if there was no emotion. Of course, Lu Ming's heart was already mourning for Yun Songsheng. Attack. Only cripple their cultivation. I want them alive. Yun Songsheng waved his hand. Shua. Whoosh. At the same time, Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing quickly retreated out of the wooden house and flew into the sky. "You want to leave? Don't even think about it." Yun Songsheng and the other two chased madly and caught up to the sky. "Leave? Who wants to leave? It's just that it's more convenient here." Lu Ming smiled faintly. "Do it. I'll leave this brat to you. As for that bitch, I'll personally serve her." Yun Songsheng sneered and released a powerful aura, peak of the 8th layer of the martial king realm. This Yun Songsheng had reached the peak of the 8th layer martial emperor realm. No wonder he was so proud of himself. Boom, boom. The auras of the other two black-robed men also burst out. They were also at the early stage of the 8th level of the martial king realm. Both of them pounced on Lu Ming. Whoosh, whoosh. The two black-robed men's bodies hadn't even reached them when their throats were pierced by two spear lights. They couldn't even let out a blood-curdling scream. Lu Ming's figure disappeared with a flicker. Their blood essence was devoured by Lu Ming, while their storage rings were now in Lu Ming's hand. Yun Songsheng's eyes opened wide as he stared at the scene in disbelief. Wasn't Lu Ming's cultivation only slightly stronger than Gu Huaxu's? How did he become so powerful all of a sudden? Two 8th layer martial emperor realm experts were killed before they could even react. Hiding his strength. Lu Ming must have been hiding his strength before this. "Let's go." Without hesitation, Yun Songsheng turned around and fled. Being able to kill two 8th layer martial emperor realm experts with ease, his strength was definitely stronger than his. Trying to escape, Xian Yinqing's gaze turned cold. She raised her jade-like hand and pressed it into the air. An invisible force field was generated, causing Yun Songsheng's figure to be suspended in the air. Such a fascinating martial skill. Lu Ming exclaimed. He had experienced this martial skill before, and it was indeed powerful. He had asked Xian Yinqing about it, and learned that this martial skill was called Heavenly Demon Force Field. However, Xian Yinqing had only just learned it. She had come to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution to obtain the Heavenly Demon Fruit in order to cultivate the Heavenly Demon Force Field. With the Heavenly Demon Fruit, her Heavenly Demon Force Field would be upgraded to a higher level. Yun Tsongsheng was terrified. He tried his best to prick with the needles, but with his cultivation, he could not break free from the restraint of the heavenly demon force field. Let me go, what are you doing? My father is the patriarch of the Yun clan, a Sea of Soul realm expert. If you dare to kill me, my father will not let you go. Yun, Tsongsheng screamed in fear. Lu Ming, wait for me here. Xian Yanqing waved her hand and flew away with Yun Tsongsheng. Soon, Yun Tsongsheng's blood-curdling screams could be heard. Even Lu Ming could not bear to hear it. This seems like it's better not to offend women in the future. Lu Ming felt cold sweat on his back. After a while, the screams stopped abruptly. Xia Nianqing flew back alone. Let's go back. Xia Nianqing said. Dead. Lu Ming asked. N. Xia Nianqing nodded and flew forward. Lu Ming caught up and said, Yun Tsongsheng's death will probably cause a commotion in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. It's better for us to keep a low profile. Xia Nianqing nodded. With their current battle strength, it would be difficult for them to face a Sea of Soul Realm expert. Sea of Soul Realm was much stronger than Martial King Realm. An ordinary Peak King Realm expert in the first layer of the spiritual Sea Realm could kill a bunch of them with a slap. The two returned to the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution without anyone noticing. In a mountain range hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, Gu Huaxiu sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. Damn it! If I don't kill that brat, I swear I'm not human. Gu Huaxiu growled, his voice filled with resentment. Hee hee, brat, you want revenge? Stop dreaming. If I'm not wrong, that Lu Ming didn't use his full strength when he fought with you. It could even be said that he only used a little bit of his strength. Suddenly, a shriveled and unpleasant voice sounded. The voice came out of nowhere. However, Gu Huaxiu was clearly the only one in the area. Gu Huaxiu didn't seem surprised at all. He only frowned and roared. You're saying that Lu Ming didn't use his full strength? Damn it. Yes. If I'm not wrong, that Lu Ming definitely has the battle strength of a Peak King Realm expert. And that little girl gives off a very dangerous feeling. She's probably not weaker than that brat. She might even be stronger. The shriveled voice sounded again. Damn it, why is it like this? Doesn't that mean I can't take revenge? Damn it. Gu Huaxiu roared. That's not necessarily true. You should have prepared the things I asked you to prepare, right? As long as you do as I ask, I guarantee that your cultivation will skyrocket in a short period of time. It'll be more than enough for you to defeat those two. The shriveled voice said, I've prepared everything, but can I really defeat that brat Lu Ming in a short period of time? You just said that he has the battle strength of a Peak King. Chapter 634. Kid, you're so short-sighted. What's the big deal about defeating that kid? From now on, your cultivation will continue to soar. It'll be easy for you to enter the list of top 1,000 talents. By then, Yun Haiteng will throw herself at you. You can have as many beauties as you want. The shriveled voice outlined a beautiful future for Gu Huaxiu. Gu Huaxiu's eyes were burning with passion. All right, senior, I'll listen to you. Gu Huaxiu gritted his teeth, and a jade bottle the size of a wine jar appeared in his hand. It was filled with a dark green liquid that emitted a nauseating stench. Gu Huaxiu frowned at the sight. Kid, this miraculous medicine is my life's work. Although it smells bad, it's only temporary. You'll have a bright future in the future. Drink it. The shriveled voice said. All right. Gu Huaxiu gritted his teeth, picked up the jade bottle, and gulped down the entire bottle of dark green liquid. Good. Ha ha ha. That voice laughed with incomparable excitement. A moment later, dark green runes rose from Gu Huaxiu's abdomen and covered his entire body. They rapidly gathered toward his head. What's going on? Why do I feel like I can't use my true essence? I can't even use my intent realm. I can't even move my body. What's going on? Gu Huashu cried out in panic. Ha ha ha, the heavens are on my side. I can finally be resurrected. The shriveled voice laughed maniacally. Then a shadow flew out of Gu Huashu's body. It looked like an old man, and his eyes were filled with excitement. What are you trying to do? Gu Huashu finally felt that something was wrong. What am I trying to do? Of course, I'm going to use your body to come back to the world. All my efforts were not in vain. Ha ha. The old man laughed maniacally, then turned into a ray of light and rushed into Gu Huashu's forehead. What are you doing? Get out of here. Gu Huashu roared. His face was twisted as he struggled madly, as if he was fighting against something. However, half an hour later, Gu Huashu's voice softened. The light in his eyes dimmed as he closed them. But in the next moment, his eyes suddenly opened, revealing a look of ecstasy. Ha ha ha, I've finally taken over this body and returned to the world. Great, this is great. Moreover, I've made it in time for the Battle of Providence. This body just so happens to meet the requirements. This time, I'm going to seize a great opportunity. Gu Huashu laughed. To be precise, he was no longer Gu Huashu. Gu Huashu, I will use your identity for now. However, your cultivation is too weak, and you need to raise it. Also, there seems to be something good in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. You must get your hands on it. Gu Huashu grinned, then sat down with his legs crossed and began cultivating. As he cultivated, the boundless spiritual chi in the sky and earth gathered frantically towards Gu Huashu's body. Gu Huashu's aura also rose rapidly. Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Indeed, from the second day onwards, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing felt that the atmosphere in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution had changed. It had become somewhat solemn. Moreover, there was no one to teach them. Lu Ming and the rest suddenly had nothing to do. Yun Haitang's figure had also disappeared. She did not show up and did not look for Lu Ming either. Lu Ming knew that something must have happened to Yun Songsheng, which had alerted the higher-ups of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Many of the things that the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution did were shady. They were afraid that they would attract the attention of the major forces. He believed that they would not dare to go out and collect Khanate blood qi for the time being. Since there was nothing to do, Lu Ming decided to cultivate in his dormitory. In the Temple of Paragon, Lu Ming sat down with his legs crossed. There were some strange metals beside him. They were all refining materials. With a roll of his true essence, a piece of dark gold metal appeared in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming stretched out his hand, and a wisp of yellow flame flew out. It wrapped around the dark gold metal and began to burn fiercely. Lu Ming's spiritual flame used the earth core flowing flame as the fire seed. Its temperature was terrifyingly high. In a short while, the dark gold metal completely turned into a pool of liquid. It surged in the air and sizzled in the flames. Wisps of black flames could be seen floating upwards. This was burning the impurities in the metal. After a short while, Lu Ming added another piece of metal and continued to condense it with his spiritual flame. Just like that, Lu Ming added 6 pieces of metal consecutively. The 6 pieces of metal turned into liquid and fused together. Slowly, the liquid metal turned into a long sword. There were strange patterns on it, and the sword was extremely sharp. However, this was only a half-finished product. When the long sword was formed, Lu Ming's fingers quickly inscribed inscriptions in the air. Inscriptions flew into the sword and disappeared. The aura on the long sword also became stronger and stronger, giving off a feeling of showing off its sharpness. The speed at which Lu Ming's fingers inscribed inscriptions became faster and faster. It was so fast that only a bunch of afterimages were left. Half an hour later, Lu Ming let out a long breath and stopped inscribing. The spiritual flame was also retracted. The long sword fell into Lu Ming's hand. Swish, swish. Lu Ming picked up the long sword and waved it a few times. A sharp sound of breaking through the air rang out. High-grade rank 3 spirit weapon. The corner of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a smile as he felt the power of inscription sprinkled down by the law of inscription. This was Lu Ming's first time refining, and he had already refined a high-grade rank 3 spirit weapon. Lu Ming was already quite satisfied. This was related to Lu Ming's previous 2 levels, which were the perfect state with 10 spirit lamps lit. As long as Lu Ming practiced for a period of time, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to refine rank 3 spirit weapons. He might even be able to refine rank 4 spirit weapons. In the following period of time, Lu Ming spent most of his time cultivating the underworld observation method, refining pills and refining weapons, except for a little time every day to comprehend the essence of heaven and earth and the 9 dragons ascending heaven steps. Moreover, Lu Ming felt that he was more talented in refining weapons. Under Danden's guidance, Lu Ming refined a high-grade rank 3 spirit weapon in 3 days. 7 days later, Lu Ming refined a high-grade rank 3 spirit weapon. 12 days later, Lu Ming successfully refined a low-grade rank 4 spirit weapon. Refining a high-grade spirit weapon, or refining a higher-grade spirit weapon, the power of inscription from the law of inscription increased greatly. It was much faster than cultivating the underworld observation method. Lu Ming's spiritual flame increased rapidly. In just half a month, Lu Ming had successfully ignited the 8th spirit lamp and was about to ignite the 9th. Lu Ming's goal was to ignite the 10th spirit lamp. This was only possible because he had the underworld observation method and could refine a higher grade spirit weapon. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't even think about it. In this half a month, the atmosphere in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was very abnormal. However, as time passed, the atmosphere slowly returned to normal. On the 16th day, an elder finally came out to give a lecture. Young Master Lu Ming, Miss Haitang invites you to Haitang Courtyard for a chat. Chapter 635. It was finally here. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Xia Nianqing glanced at Lu Ming and said in a strange tone, "Your beauty is here. Make good use of it." Lu Ming bitterly smiled and winked at Xia Nianqing. Then he followed the maid to Haitang Courtyard. Haitang Courtyard was located on another mountain peak with beautiful scenery. Although it was a courtyard, it was built magnificently and occupied an extremely large area. It could be said that this entire mountain peak was Haitang Courtyard's territory. There were even stone palaces built in the belly of the mountain. The maid led Lu Ming through many twists and turns before arriving at a stone palace. This stone palace was built in the belly of the mountain. Light couldn't directly shine in. The walls of the stone palace were inlaid with luminous stones, giving the stone palace a hazy feeling. Within the stone palace, there was a jade table and several jade stools. On the jade table, there were already some spirit fruits, wine, and dishes. After the maid led Lu Ming here, she retreated. Now, only Lu Ming was left in the stone palace. Lu Ming looked around with interest. Then he picked up his wine cup and poured himself a cup of wine. He drank it in one gulp. Good wine. Lu Ming couldn't help but praise. This wine was mellow and mellow. After entering his stomach, he felt his entire body warm up. The aftertaste was endless. Since it's good wine, Brother Lu should drink a few more cups today. A sweet voice rang out as Yun Haitang walked in. Today, Yun Haitang was wearing a black muslin dress. The dress was split on both sides, revealing two snow-white and plump thighs as she walked. The key point was that the dress was transparent. Some of Yun Haitang's beauty was faintly discernible under the hazy light of the luminous stones. It was filled with endless temptation. Yun Haitang leisurely walked in front of Lu Ming. A rich fragrance rushed into Lu Ming's nose. Lu Ming felt his heartbeat quicken. To be honest, Yun Haitang's figure was very impressive. She was only a little worse than Mulan's. In such an environment, and in such a dress, any man would be tempted. Lu Ming was naturally a normal man. Yun Haitang sat on the stone bench next to Lu Ming. Her snow-white slender thighs were exposed from the slit in her gauze skirt all the way to her roots. "Brother Lu, I gave you the right to come to the crabapple courtyard to look for me at any time, but you didn't come even after so long. You even asked little sister to send someone to invite you over. That's too much. You must be punished with 3 cups of wine." Yun Haitang poured a glass of wine for Lu Ming and smiled sweetly. Her voice was so sweet that it could penetrate one's heart. Fine, he deserves to be punished. Lu Ming smiled, picked up the wine cup, and drank it in one gulp. Then Yun Haitang poured another cup of wine for Lu Ming. Just like that, Lu Ming drank 3 cups in a row. Brother Lu's path of inscription is truly admirable. I feel that although Brother Lu is only a 3rd-level inscription master, your mental strength shouldn't be inferior to some 4th-level inscription masters. Could it be that Brother Lu has lit 5 spirit lamps for each level? Yun Haitang blinked her large eyes, staring at Lu Ming without blinking. Lu Ming faintly smiled. "Not bad. I was lucky to have lit 5 spirit lamps for each of the first 2 levels." Lu Ming's words caused Yun Haitang's eyes to brighten. Greed flashed in the depths of her eyes. Brother Lu's talent is truly admirable. Come, let little sister offer you a cup of wine. Yun Haitang picked up the wine cup and drank it in one gulp. Following her movements, her proud bosom rose and fell. It was a soul-stirring sight. After drinking a cup of wine, Yun Haitang's face immediately flushed red, making her even more alluring. At this moment, a maidservant hurried in. Yun Haitang's face immediately darkened. "Can't you see that I'm drinking with young Master Lu? What are you doing here?" "Miss," the maidservant's face turned pale, revealing a trace of fear. However, she still walked over, leaned over, and whispered a few words in Yun Haitang's ear. Yun Haitang's face changed slightly. "You can leave first." The maidservant immediately excused herself. "Brother Lu, I have a small matter to deal with. Wait for me here," Yun Haitang said softly. "All right, it's fine." "Miss Haitang, please go ahead." Lu Ming smiled. Yun Haitang got up and walked away gracefully. Lu Ming picked up the wine cup and drank another mouthful. Then he stood up and continued to inscribe in the air with both hands. Inscriptions appeared and entered his body. This was the inscription formation that he had inscribed in the past to restrain one's aura. Although this formation wasn't very advanced, it had a unique effect in retracting one's aura. According to Dandan, this was its own creation. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, even a Sea of Soul Realm expert wouldn't be able to sense his aura. Inscriptions appeared on Lu Ming's body. Then, in a flash, they all disappeared. Lu Ming's aura also disappeared without a trace. The effect was many times better than him retracting his aura. Then, Lu Ming's figure moved and left the stone hall. After passing through several corridors and secret rooms, he saw another stone hall. A voice came from the stone hall. Lu Ming quietly rushed into the stone hall and hid in a corner. This stone hall was bigger than the one Lu Ming was in. A young man was sitting at the table with Yun Haitang. Haitang, I haven't seen you in a while. I really missed you. Look, I came to see you as soon as I finished my business. The young man looked at Yun Haitang with fire in his eyes. You really miss me? Don't lie to me. Yun Haitang smiled and poured a cup of wine for the young man. Of course it's true. Sai, if it weren't for the fact that there's been a problem with the cultivation of my spiritual flame recently, not only is it not improving, it's even regressing. I really don't want to leave. I want to stay here and accompany you. The young man said, Your elders didn't find out the reason for your spirit fire's regression? Yin Haitang's eyes flashed, and she asked softly. No, it's really strange. The young man muttered. Then his burning gaze fell on Yun Haitang, and he said, It doesn't matter. As long as Haitang is here, even if I can't cultivate, it doesn't matter. As he spoke, the young man's hand hugged Yun Haitang's slender waist, and his breathing became heavy. Yun Haitang moaned and fell into the young man's arms. Then the two of them were entangled together. Their clothes fluttered, and the two naked bodies were entangled together. Their heavy breathing echoed in the stone hall. Lu Ming smiled bitterly. He didn't expect to see such a scene when he came to check on the situation. To be honest, it was Lu Ming's first time seeing such entanglement. Lu Ming rubbed his nose and watched with interest. The young man's breathing became heavier and heavier. After a while, the young man let out a beast-like growl. At this moment, Lu Ming was shocked by the scene that took place. 3 green spirit lamps appeared above the young man's head. Above them was a green spirit fire. This meant that the young man was a 4th-level inscription master. Similarly, a spirit lamp appeared above Yun Haitang's head. Chapter 636. At this moment, the young man was immersed in the boundless pleasure and did not notice his abnormality at all. Yun Haitang's eyes flashed with frenzied greed. That poisonous snake was constantly absorbing the young man's spiritual fire. The flames of the young man's 3 spiritual lamps dimmed rapidly, especially the flame of the 3rd lamp. It was on the verge of collapse and would be extinguished at any time. It was no wonder that the young man said that his spiritual fire was weakening and that his cultivation of the spiritual fire was deteriorating instead of improving. It would be strange if it did not deteriorate after playing this game with Yun Haitang every day. Moreover, he did not notice it at all. Yun Haitang was using this method to cultivate her spiritual fire. Lu Ming felt a chill run down his spine. This process only took about 10 breaths of time. The spiritual fire above their heads dimmed and disappeared. The young man slumped to the ground like a pile of mud. Rest here for a while. I still have something to deal with. Yun Haitang said to the young man. The young man nodded. At this moment, Lu Ming quietly left the stone hall and returned to the previous stone hall. He poured a cup of wine and slowly sipped it. Not long after, footsteps sounded, and Yun Haitang returned. Brother Lu, sorry to keep you waiting. Yun Haitang said in a sweet voice, and walked over gracefully. Yun Haitang's thin clothes covered her body, and there was even a hint of redness on her face. She looked even more charming. However, Lu Ming could not help but feel a chill run down his spine when he thought of the scene just now. He was not in the mood to admire it at all. He only said perfunctorily, I didn't wait long. You're quite fast. He indeed felt that the old man was quite fast. Yun Haitang smiled faintly and sat down beside Lu Ming. She poured a cup of wine for Lu Ming and then poured a cup for herself. She said, Brother Lu, I'll punish myself with a cup. With that, she picked up the cup and drank it in one gulp. After putting down the cup, Yun Haitang blinked her big eyes and stared at Lu Ming. After a while, she said, Brother Lu, I invited you here today to tell you something from the bottom of my heart. Oh, what is it? Lu Ming asked with a smile. Yun Haitang's face flushed red. Her body slowly approached Lu Ming. She placed a small hand on Lu Ming's shoulder. Her face was close to Lu Ming. Her breath smelled like orchids, and her hot breath blew on Lu Ming's face. Actually, the first time I saw Brother Lu, I felt that Brother Lu was the man I had been waiting for my whole life. Recently, I've been missing Brother Lu very much. As she spoke, Yun Haitang's plump body was about to sit on Lu Ming's lap. Her fragrance assailed his nostrils. With such a scene, and Yun Haitang being such a rare beauty, he believed that no man would be able to resist such temptation. If Lu Ming hadn't seen that scene just now, he might have been tempted as well. However, at this moment, he did not feel anything at all. He said indifferently, "The way I see it, you're not missing me, but my spiritual fire." His calm and indifferent voice made Yun Haitang's movements stiffen. Her body, which almost sat on Lu Ming's lap, also froze in the air. She revealed an ugly smile on her face. She looked at Lu Ming and said coquettishly, "Brother Lu, what are you talking about? What do you mean by missing your spiritual fire? I don't understand." "I have a question. I'd like to correct you. I'm younger than you, but you keep calling me little sister. It's embarrassing," Lu Ming said very seriously. "Hee, so it's little brother. I thought you were older than me." Yun Haitang's face stiffened, but she smiled again. "There's one more thing. After you left, I was bored, so I walked around and happened to see the exciting scene between you and that young master. Hee, I wonder what will happen if this spreads." Lu Ming laughed. Yun Haitang's face changed completely. It became extremely gloomy, and her eyes revealed a cold, murderous intent. "Little brother, it's not good to wander around in other people's territory. You'll pay with your life." As soon as he finished his words, Yun Haitang's finger pierced toward his throat like a sharp sword. Her hand was placed on Lu Ming's shoulder. Since the distance between them was too close, Yun Haitang was confident that she could kill Lu Ming with this move. But in the next moment, her 100% confidence was reduced to 0. This was because Lu Ming's hand had grabbed her wrist. She had no idea how Lu Ming had grabbed her wrist. Even with her peak 8th layer martial Emperor realm cultivation, she was unaware of it. Die. In an instant, a short sword appeared in her other hand and slashed toward Lu Ming's throat. However, the next moment, her hand was grabbed by Lu Ming again. Lu Ming grabbed both of her wrists. A terrifying true energy surged into Yun Haitang's body, causing her body to go limp and her true chi to dissipate. She had no strength to resist. Her heart sank. "Who are you? What do you want?" Yun Haitang yelled. Lu Ming's cultivation was too terrifying. It was far above hers. "Nothing. I just want to take your inscription badge. I don't mind if I can get rid of evil for the people." Lu Ming smiled faintly. You killed Yun Songsheng, didn't you?" Yun Haitang asked. "You could say that." Lu Ming nodded. "The ancestor of the Yun clan won't let you go if you do that." Yun Haitang yelled. "Is that so?" Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as a murderous intent spread out. "Miss." At this time, a few maidservants heard the noise and rushed in. Lu Ming flicked his finger and spear radiance flew out, penetrating the maidservants' dantians and destroying their cultivation. Their ability to speak was also sealed, so they couldn't speak for the time being. Feeling the cold, murderous intent from Lu Ming, Yun Haitang was scared. She smiled with a pale face and begged, "Lu Ming, Brother Lu, I beg you let me go. I can give you anything you want. Also, I will serve you well and make you comfortable. I guarantee that you will be satisfied." The meaning behind his words was self-evident. Lu Ming smiled faintly and said, "I don't need it." Then he pointed at Yun Haitang's dantian. Yun Haitong's cyclone collapsed, and she collapsed on the ground like a pile of mud. Her eyes were full of despair. Then Lu Ming pointed at Yun Haitong's glabella a few times. 5 spirit lamps appeared above Yun Haitong's head. The spirit lamps flickered a few times and then collapsed one by one. Yun Haitong's cultivation and inscription Dao had been destroyed. Lu Ming rolled up Yun Haitong's storage ring and took it in his hand. Lu Ming, kill me if you can. Otherwise, I won't let you go. Yun Haitong shouted with hatred, You will never be a threat to me. Lu Ming cast a faint glance at Yun Haitong. His tone was full of confidence. How could he take a mere Yun Haitong seriously? Moreover, she was someone who had crippled her cultivation and the Tao of inscription. Chapter 637. What's wrong? You're back so soon. Since a beauty invited you, why don't you take the opportunity to get closer to her? Xian Yanqing said sarcastically when he saw Lu Ming. Why would I get close to other women? If I want to get close to someone, it should be you. Lu Ming chuckled. Xian Yanqing blushed and said, Stop it. Who wants to get close to you? Tell me, did you lust after her and get chased out? Lu Ming was speechless. Was his character that bad? Seeing that Lu Ming did not speak, Xian Yanqing smiled. Forget it. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's get down to business. Lu Ming took out Yun Haitong's storage ring and immersed his mind into it. After a while, a token appeared. This is an inscription token? You're doing it so soon? Xian Yanqing asked. Of course. If I don't do it now, I'll have to sacrifice my body. Lu Ming muttered and said, Now, let's do it immediately. Otherwise, we won't have a chance when others find out that something happened to Yun Haitong. All right. Xian Yanqing was not a hesitant person and immediately nodded. Wait a minute, Lu Ming shouted. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming in confusion. I'll inscribe an inscription array for you to restrain your aura. Lu Ming's hands were constantly inscribing. Inscriptions flew into Xian Yanqing's body. In a short while, the inscription array to conceal one's aura was completed. Lu Ming, I didn't expect your inscription technique to be so brilliant. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming curiously. It's just SOSO. Let's go. His figure flashed, and he went into the depths of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Xian Yanqing followed. At the same time, in a secret room of the Cloud Sea Pill Institution, a low roar like that of a wild beast could be heard. A white-haired elder had his heart pierced by Gu Huashu's claw. Who are you? Gu Huashu wasn't that strong? Disbelief flashed in the old man's eyes. He was a core elder of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, a peak king. Even if Gu Huashu had launched a sneak attack, he wouldn't have been able to pierce through his heart. The cultivation that Gu Huashu had just displayed was utterly terrifying. Ha, death is at hand. Why do you care so much? I just want your inscription token. True essence erupted, and the old man's aura vanished. Gu Huashu chuckled coldly. He licked his lips and took off the old man's storage ring. A moment later, a badge appeared in his hand, which was identical to the badge Lu Ming had obtained from Yun Haitong and the others. Gu Huashu's figure flickered, and he headed toward the treasury of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's cultivation was extremely profound. Their movement techniques were as fast as lightning, and with the inscription array concealing their auras, no one could discover them. Soon, the two of them arrived at the depths of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution. There was a huge mountain here. Halfway up the mountain, there was a stone door. The stone door was tightly shut, and there were inscription arrays all around it. Without the inscription token, even if one tried to force their way in, it would alert the upper echelons of the Cloud Sea Alchemy Institution, including the Sea of Soul Realm expert. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing rushed to the mountainside, took out the inscription token, and poured their true essence into it. Buzz! The inscription token glowed, and inscriptions appeared. Inscriptions also appeared on the stone door. These inscriptions formed a light shield in front of the door. At that moment, the light barrier parted to form a door. As for the stone door, it opened by itself. Let's go! Their figures flashed as they rushed in. The light barrier closed automatically, and so did the stone door. Behind the stone door, there was a wide passage. It was obviously man-made, and the walls were bumpy. The two of them followed the passage and moved forward quickly. The passage was slanted downwards, and it went underground. The two of them carefully moved forward for a few minutes. Suddenly, Lu Ming felt his hair stand on end, and a sense of danger erupted from the bottom of his heart. Be careful! Lu Ming suddenly pulled Xia Nianqing and retreated quickly. Chi-Chi, two sharp forces shot into the place where the two of them had been, leaving two bottomless, thumb-sized holes in the ground. Die! A figure pounced out quickly, and a dark green claw light grabbed at Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing's vital points. It was unbelievably fast. Buzz! A long spear condensed in Lu Ming's hand. The spear light pierced through the void and pierced forward. Heavenly Demon Force Field. Xia Nianqing pressed his hand forward, and a powerful force field burst out, encapsulating his opponent. Bang! Lu Ming's spear light collided with his opponent's. Lu Ming's figure swayed slightly, while his opponent retreated rapidly. How powerful! Lu Ming's eyes glistened. Despite his and Xia Nianqing's teamwork, their opponent was only knocked back and was not injured. This was a clear indication of his strength. Of course, it was also because they had not used their full strength in a hurry. Gu Huaxiu. At this moment, Lu Ming saw the person before him and was astounded, his eyes filled with disbelief. Xia Nianqing beside him had the same reaction. The person who had ambushed them was none other than Gu Huaxiu. Gu Huaxiu was only a 7th-layer martial emperor half a month ago. In just half a month's time, his cultivation had improved to such a terrifying level. Hee, the combat strength of the two of you is beyond my expectations. Gu Huaxiu let out a hollow laugh and licked his lips, staring coldly at Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing frowned. They did not expect to stumble into Gu Huaxiu here. You're here to rob the treasure of the Cloud Ocean Pill Court too, right? Lu Ming said. Hee, not bad. I didn't expect you two to be here too. Very well. I'll use this chance to get rid of you. Gu Huaxiu's eyes flickered as his figure transformed into more than 10 illusionary figures, charging in Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing's direction. Every illusory figure looked real, and every illusory figure exuded a powerful aura. Sky Poison Claw. Gu Huaxiu groaned as he lashed out with a claw glow. The illusionary figures lashed out with their claws, covering Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing's vitals. Heavenly Demon Force Field. Heavenly Demon Cleave. Xia Nianqing roared as the Heavenly Demon Force Field exploded, containing a terrifying cutting power. Swoosh! Swoosh! Lu Ming's spear transformed into more than 10 spear radiances, piercing through the illusionary figures. Bam! Bam! The three of them had restrained their genuine essence during the battle. Otherwise, with their combat strength, they would have pierced through the mountain. I didn't expect the two of you to be so powerful. I'm afraid even the lower-ranked geniuses on the list of top 1,000 talents are no match for either of you. Chapter 638. However, Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing were equally shocked. Gu Huaxiu had reached such a terrifying level in just half a month. His cultivation had already reached the level of a peak king. Furthermore, the martial skills he used were extremely strange, and his battle prowess was extremely strong. Lu Ming wasn't confident that he could win in a one-on-one battle. This guy's condition is too strange. Dandan stared at Gu Huashu with her dark eyes, her eyeballs rolling in their sockets. Dandan, what did you see? Lu Ming asked. Dandan had said that it had lived for a long time, and Lu Ming felt that it might be true. Perhaps Dandan could really see something. It's a bit like possession, but it's not easy. It requires a series of coincidences, or it'll be very difficult to succeed. Dandan muttered, "Possession?" Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing's expressions changed as disbelief appeared in their eyes. They had heard of the legend of possession. It was said that after a cultivator reached the spiritual god realm and formed a spiritual god, the spiritual god wouldn't crumble immediately even if the physical body was destroyed. It could even be reborn through possession. However, seizing someone's body wasn't as easy as one would imagine. Once a spiritual god left the body, it would be extremely weak and wouldn't be able to exist for long. Most importantly, every person's will was extremely strong and even involved the law of life. Basically, it was impossible to be possessed. If a spiritual god wanted to possess someone, it would usually end up in ashes. However, there were examples of successful possession in history, but it was too rare. Could it be that Gu Huashu had been possessed by a powerful existence? At this moment, Gu Huashu's expression changed drastically. "Humph! I'll let the two of you go for now. I'll take your lives in the future." Gu Huashu snorted coldly and quickly retreated into the depths of the tunnel. After him. The two chased after him. The three of them continued forward, passing through the East Bay and West Bay. After a while, a huge underground cave appeared in front of them. On the ceiling of the underground cavern, there were blood-red gems embedded in the stone walls, scattering blood-red light. In the middle of the underground cavern, there was actually a medicinal field with more than a dozen types of spirit herbs planted. Blood infant fruit, dragon poison fruit. My intuition was right. As soon as Gu Huashu arrived, he was overjoyed and rushed toward the fruit trees. Heavenly demon fruit. Xian Yinqing saw a fruit tree that was as tall as a man. It was pitch black, and there was only one fruit on it. It was the size of a fist, and its surface was covered with strange patterns. This was the heavenly demon fruit that Xian Yinqing needed. Xian Yinqing pounced on the heavenly demon fruit. Wung, wung. At this moment, the air began to vibrate violently. The vibrations were densely packed, as though countless bees were flying around. However, the vibrations were thousands of times stronger than bees. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Immediately, beetles flew out from the ground under the fruit trees. They shot toward Gu Huashu and Xian Yinqing like bullets. Their speed was shocking. The vibrations were caused by the beetles' wings flapping in the air. "Be careful!" Lu Ming exclaimed softly and dashed over quickly. Heavenly demon force field. Xian Yinqing pressed his palm down, and the powerful heavenly demon force field enveloped the beetles. However, the beetles' speed was only slightly affected, and they continued to rush towards Xian Yinqing. Heavenly demon cleave. An incomparably sharp cutting power erupted, and a cutting power like wind blades slashed towards the beetles. Clang, clang. The powerful cutting force cut through the beetles, but the sound of metal clashing could be heard, and sparks flew everywhere. Only a few of the beetles were cut in half, while the rest were sent flying. They slowed down for a moment before rushing over again. On the other side, a short sword appeared in Gu Huashu's hand, and he slashed repeatedly. However, the result was the same. Only a few beetles were killed, while the rest were sent flying. Sacred beetles! Damn it! Why are there sacred beetles here? Gu Huashu roared. Wum, wum. The beetles flew up again, and there were at least 1,000 of them. Lu Ming rushed forward, and a huge spear light condensed in his hand. He swept it out, and dozens of the sacred beetles were sent flying like bullets, crashing into the surrounding walls and blasting large holes in them. However, even more sacred beetles pounced on Lu Ming. This kind of sacred beetle had a long spike on its mouth. It was abnormally sharp, and no one wanted to be pierced by this kind of spike. Xiao Qing, take the heavenly demon fruit and retreat. Lu Ming shouted, Juniors, today none of you will be able to leave. All of you will stay here. At this moment, a bone-chilling voice sounded. Boom! In the air above the cave, a mighty and terrifying aura pressed down. This aura gave people the feeling of facing a vast ocean. Not good. It's a Sea of Soul realm expert. Lu Ming's face changed. It seemed that the Cloud Ocean Alchemy Institution had been waiting for them here. 9 dragons stomping the sky. Lu Ming didn't hesitate and directly used the 9 dragons stomping the sky. His body turned into a ray of light, and in a flash, he dodged the large group of sacred beetles and rushed toward the heavenly demon fruit. Pung! Pung! Then, with a sweep of his spear, a group of sacred beetles in front of him were sent flying. His Zhen Yuan swept forward and wrapped around the heavenly demon fruit, and Lu Ming put it into his storage ring. Heavenly demon fruit, let's go! Lu Ming shouted, and his body flew toward the exit. At the same time, Xian Yanqing also retreated. Juniors, stay here! A furious roar rang out, and 2 powerful forces pressed down on the 2 of them at an unimaginable speed. They were 2 rings of fire, and they emitted a shocking pressure. So hot! That's a second-grade fire concept. Lu Ming's heart stirred, and 3 kinds of concepts burst out. A spear light burst out, striking the ring of fire. There was a deafening roar, and Lu Ming felt a boundless pressure surging toward him. His body shook slightly, and he could not help but retreat continuously. On the other side, Xian Yanqing was also in a similar situation, and he retreated a few steps. In the sky, a burly middle-aged man, wearing a red robe, stood in the void. His cold gaze swept over the 3 of them. My son, Yun Xongshan, was killed by you? Today, I'll bury you with him. A cold voice was heard. As soon as he finished his words, the burly man in red robes pressed his hands down. A total of 9 flame rings were launched at Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Gu Huaxi respectively. At the same time, the sacred beetles trembled violently and flew toward the 3. Heavenly demon force field. Destruction cut, Xian Yanqing shouted, and pressed out with both hands. A powerful force field covered a radius of 10 meters, and an invisible cutting force destroyed everything. This time, many sacred beetles were directly cut in half, and only 3 rings of fire were left, rampaging in the force field. This is the destruction concept. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Chapter 639. The destruction intent was a special intent. Its attack power was terrifying and could destroy everything. In terms of attack power, even the thunder intent was inferior to it. At the same time, Xian Yanqing had also comprehended the wind intent. However, the 2 intents were clearly not merged together. Die for me! At this moment, a long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Ever since he obtained the infinite dragon spear, Lu Ming had not used it yet. Whoosh! Whoosh! The infinite dragon spear turned into a series of afterimages. Dozens of spear lights shot out. As the spear lights were too sharp, they tore open dozens of vacuum channels in the air. The spear lights pierced through dozens of sacred beetles, causing them to explode. The tip of the infinite dragon spear was made of indestructible steel. It was incomparably tough and sharp. It easily broke through the sacred beetle's defense. On the other side, Gu Huashu let out a long roar. Dark green sword chi burst out. It was also stronger than before and split the sacred beetles apart. Boom, boom. Thereafter, there was a violent roar. Lu Ming and the group collided with the flaming ring, and there was a shocking explosion. The entire mountain peak shook violently. Damn it! The red-robed, middle-aged man's eyes were filled with shock. Lu Ming and the other two were too strong. Not only could they break through the sacred beetles, but they could also block his attack. They were only martial kings, but they were so terrifying. Overflowing flames destroy the world. The red-robed man waved his hands and pressed down. Immediately, dozens of rings of flames formed and shot towards the three. This flaming disk was the fusion of the red-robed man's true essence and concept. It was incomparably powerful, and the edges of the disk were incomparably sharp. It also contained the explosive power of flames. If a person was struck by it, they would definitely explode. Lu Ming, how about the three of us work together? Gu Huashu suddenly called out. The other party was a Sea of Soul realm expert. Whether it was Chun Yuan or intent, they were both too strong. They would not be a match for him alone. If they wanted to leave this place safely, they could only work together. Otherwise, they would be defeated one by one. All right. Lu Ming was also very clear on this point. Without hesitation, he nodded and agreed. Regardless of whether Gu Huashu was possessed or not, he had to get through this first. Gu Huashu's figure flickered and appeared beside Lu Ming and the others like a ghost. Spiritual sea tier, Dantian turning into the sea. True essence is too dense. We can't fight him head-on, or else our true essence will definitely be exhausted. The opponent is a martial artist at the peak of the first layer of the spiritual sea tier. We can only take the initiative and counterattack to have a chance of winning. Gu Huashu quickly analyzed. What method do you have? Lu Ming asked. It was very likely that Gu Huashu had been possessed by a spiritual god. His knowledge was extraordinary. Perhaps he really had a way. While resisting the attacks of the red-robed man, they conversed with each other via voice transmission. The two of us will open up a path and attack the opponent. Let this girl use her force field to envelop the opponent and reduce his speed. Only then will we have a chance to win. Gu Huashu said, All right, let's lead the way. Lu Ming nodded, following which he activated his second bloodline, causing his strength to increase by several notches. Extreme Path Strike. Lu Ming used his most powerful strike, becoming one with his spear. He turned into a ray of spear light, piercing through the void and shooting up into the sky. Pung, pung. Several rings were destroyed by Lu Ming, and the sharp spear light was aimed at the red-robed man. Azure Poison Sword. Gu Huashu's eyes flashed with a dense dark green light. Even the short sword in his hand turned dark green. He slashed out, and several rings were also destroyed. The dark green sword light slashed towards the red-robed man. The red-robed man's eyes turned serious. He clenched his fists, and the fire rings all flew back. They turned into two rings, emitting a powerful aura, and shot towards Lu Ming's spear light and dark green sword chi. Boom, boom. Two earth-shattering explosions were heard as a violent force spread out in all directions. Two pillars of chi soared into the sky from where the three of them were fighting. Boom. The stone wall above the cave was directly pierced through, and the entire mountain shook violently. Countless boulders fell, but when they were still a few dozen meters away from the four, they were shattered by the energy emitted from their bodies. Charge out! Lu Ming yelled at Xian Yinqing. Whoosh, whoosh. Lu Ming and Xian Yinqing turned into two streaks of light and charged out. On the other side, Gu Huashu did the same. Want to leave? Stay. The red-robed man let out an earth-shattering roar. and turned into a sea of fire that shot towards the three. Sky Demon Force Field. Xian Yanqing pressed his small hand, and the Sky Demon Force Field acted on the red-robed man, stopping him for a moment. Just like that, Lu Ming and the other two charged out of the mountain. "Stay here." The burly man in the red robe roared furiously. The next moment, the heavenly demon force field was shattered. He turned into a flame and dashed into the sky instantly. With a wave of his hand, dozens of flame rings blasted toward the trio. Lu Ming and the other two counterattacked, and explosions sounded like fireworks in the sky. As for the mountain peak below, it had completely collapsed. "Damn it!" Gu Huaxu roared. The spiritual herb he wanted was still inside. What's going on? Something happened in the forbidden area. Such a huge commotion naturally alarmed the entire Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, and countless people flew in the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. More than 20 figures flew towards Lu Ming and the others. "Old Ancestor, what's going on? Old Ancestor, what's going on?" These people asked one after another. These people trespassed into the forbidden area. "Everyone, attack and take them down." The red-robed man ordered. "What? How dare they? Courting death!" These 20 people shouted, and powerful auras erupted surrounding Lu Ming and the other two. These 20 people were all kings in the Greater Success stage, and they were the strongest force in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. "Kill them," the red-robed man ordered. "Kill! Kill!" More than 20 Greater Success kings attacked at the same time, unleashing all kinds of secret techniques and lights toward the three. "Die, brat!" The red-robed man waved his hand, and everyone's attacks were directed at Gu Huaxu. He wanted to take them down one by one. His attacks were too scattered, and that was why Lu Ming and the others were able to block them. Now, he wanted to focus on one person. Gu Huaxu was shocked, and he quickly retreated, and a dark green sword chi shot out. "Die!" The red-robed man pressed his hand down, and a ring of flames spun rapidly, colliding with the sword chi. The sword chi only resisted for a breath's time before collapsing, but the ring didn't stop, and it continued forward. Clang! Gu Huaxu's short sword struck the ring, and his body trembled, and he quickly retreated. "No, I'm not a match for him alone. I need to work together." Gu Huaxu ignored everything and rushed towards Lu Ming. Chapter 640. On the other side, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were also entangled. Alchemists were proficient in inscriptions, so naturally they were also proficient in joint attacks. More than 20 kings joined hands and formed a joint attack formation, firmly entangling Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming was clear about the other party's intention. They wanted to entangle the two of them. First, while the red-robed man killed Gu Huaxu, then kill them one by one. If that was the case, they would be in danger. The red-robed man was not an ordinary Sea of Soul realm expert who had just broken through, but had already reached the peak of the first layer of the Sea of Soul realm. If they fought him alone, they would only be defeated. Charge out and join hands with Gu Huaxu. Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Xian Yanqing. "Sky Demon Force Field, Destructive Cut." Xian Yanqing pressed his hands together, and the Sky Demon Force Field enveloped more than 20 kings. The destructive cutting power crazily cut at them. If it were just a few kings, they would have already been cut into meat paste. However, with more than 20 of them working together, their auras fused, and the formation resisted. "Devour!" Lu Ming pressed his left palm, and a powerful devouring power erupted, acting on the 20 kings, crazily devouring their blood essence. "Steady!" one of the old men shouted. This old man had the strength of a peak king. In fact, there were 8 peak kings among the 20 kings. Otherwise, they would not have been able to resist the joint attack of Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. True dragon attack. Break for me. Lu Ming stabbed out with his long spear, and a tricolor true dragon flew out, crashing into the 20 kings. Block it, block it. Just a while more, and the old ancestor will be able to kill that person and come help us. An old man roared. They were also incomparably shocked. Where did these young men come from? They were simply too strong, and did not seem like martial kings at all. They were too terrifying. At this moment, countless people in the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution were looking at the battle in the sky, shocked. Whoosh! Just as Lu Ming used the True Dragon Strike, a sword light suddenly flashed from a mountain peak below. This sword light seemed to come from beyond the heavens, peerlessly sharp. The target of this sword light was the same as Lu Ming's. It was also the experts of the Cloud Sea Pill Institution. Boom! The tricolor True Dragon collided with the attacks of the people from the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. They had never expected that there would be another sword light. He wanted to defend himself, but he didn't have enough strength. Puff, puff, as the sword light flashed, 7 or 8 kings at the greater success stage were sliced in half. The formation was broken. Once the formation was broken, Xian Yanqing's heavenly demonic force field erupted. Blood splattered everywhere as a few more experts were killed. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution is such a filthy and disgusting place. Today, it shall be destroyed. A figure stepped out of the void and appeared in the air in an instant. This was a young man, about 25 or 26 years old. He was dressed in a white robe and was handsome and refined. Come and help me. On the other side, Gu Huashu shouted. He could no longer hold on and was vomiting blood. He couldn't hold on for much longer. The two of you, I'll leave the rest to you. I'll go and help him. After saying that, the white-robed young man turned into a sword light and charged toward the red-robed man. Yun Luo, you old bastard, today will be the day you die. The white-robed young man's voice was filled with killing intent. Damn it, who are you? The red-robed man, who was Yun Luo, roared. I'm Li Xiaoyun, the Imperial Sky Divine Guard. I've been investigating what the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution has done for a long time. You shall be destroyed. The white-robed young man shouted coldly. Endless sword chi burst out from his hands. The white-robed young man's cultivation was also at the peak king level, but his combat strength was no weaker than Gu Huashu and Xian Yanqing's. Li Xiaoyun, who is ranked 943 on the list of top 1,000 talents. Lu Ming's expression changed. Let's join forces and break out. At this moment, an old man trapped in the heavenly demon force field tried to break out. With the formation broken, their strength was greatly reduced. Now that a few of them had been killed by Xian Yanqing, there were only a dozen of them left. They tried to break out of the heavenly demon force field, but they could not break out at all. Now, I'll send you on your way. Lu Ming stabbed out with his spear, and hundreds of tricolor true dragons flew out and pounced toward the dozen experts from the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. At the same time, the devouring power of the 9 dragons' bloodline shrouded them through his left palm. This was equivalent to Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing working together. Ordinary peak kings would not be able to resist and were killed one by one. Devour! Drops of blood essence flew into Lu Ming's left palm and were devoured by the 9 dragons' bloodline. Xian Yanqing looked at Lu Ming curiously. He did not know why Lu Ming would devour the blood essence. Now, let's go and kill that old man. Lu Ming smiled, but did not explain. He could not explain the 9 dragons' bloodline for now. As for the 20 over storage rings, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing kept all of them. Okay. Xian Yanqing nodded. Meanwhile, the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was in an uproar. The strongest group of elders of the Cloud Sea Pill Institution were all dead. All of them had been killed. Those who knew Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were even more shocked. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing are not on the list of top 1,000 talents. How can they be so strong? Even peak kings can't fight back against them. The most terrifying one is Gu Huaxiu. He's so strong that he didn't die under the patriarch's attack. A great era is coming. I heard that in recent years, geniuses have been emerging all over the eastern wilderness. Many of them are not weaker than those on the list of top 1,000 talents. It's over. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution has been targeted by these monsters. Let's go. Some of the people who were studying alchemy retreated far away to avoid being implicated. Some of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution disciples also retreated to a secluded place to watch. If something went wrong, they would leave immediately. At the same time, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had already charged toward Yun Luo. Gu Huaxiu and Li Xiaoyan were still no match for Yun Luo, but they could still fend her off. Sky Demon Force Field. Before Xian Yanqing arrived, the Sky Demon Force Field had already enveloped Yun Luo. True Dragon Strike. The dazzling spear radiance turned into a 3-color dragon and charged toward Yun Luo. At the same time, Gu Huaxiu and Li Xiaoyan counterattacked. Boom, boom. Yun Luo's body shook violently as she retreated. Whoosh, whoosh. Li Xiaoyan and Gu Huaxiu moved and blocked Yun Luo's path. The 4 of them surrounded Yun Luo. Hee, let's see how arrogant you are now. Gu Huaxiu sneered. Yun Luo, I've already investigated what the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution has done. From today onwards, the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution will be removed from the world. Li Xiaoyan's voice was extremely cold. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not speak, but their cold eyes said it all. Countless people were shocked. The 4 geniuses were going to kill a spiritual sea realm expert today. Moreover, Yun Luo was a peak first-tier spiritual sea realm expert. If she was killed, it would be a huge piece of news. It was rare for a king realm expert to kill a spiritual sea realm expert because the gap between a king realm expert and a spiritual sea realm expert was too large. Chapter 641. Do you really think that you can kill me? Yun Luo's aura surged as he scanned his surroundings. However, his heart was heavy. The 4 people before him were too strong, surpassing common sense. Ordinary peak kings would only be instantly killed in front of them. If he was alone, he was confident that he could defeat and kill them. However, he felt pressured by the 4 of them working together. Especially, he looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming was only a peak 9th level martial king, but he was already so powerful. The Battle of Providence is about to begin. These monsters have all made their move. Yun Luo felt bitter. Although it's rare for a king to kill a spiritual sea realm cultivator, it's not unheard of in history. Gu Huaxiu smirked and licked his lips. Kill. Lu Ming did not waste his breath and simply made a move. He had devoured a large amount of blood essence, so he had to end the battle as soon as possible to refine the blood essence. As soon as Lu Ming moved, the other 3 moved as well. They all used their ultimate techniques and charged toward Yun Luo. The sky suddenly boiled as the violent attacks shook the world. Strands of energy flowed out and fell to the ground. Boom, boom. Each strand of energy was like a heavy bomb, causing mountains and rivers to explode and palaces to collapse. The Cloud Sea Elixir Institution was in a mess. Run, run. The disciples of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution screamed as they ran. Those who were too slow were killed by the explosions. 5 figures turned into 5 rays of light and engaged in a life-and-death battle in the sky. However, Yun Luo was already at a disadvantage. A moment later, blood splattered everywhere as one of his arms was chopped off. Yun Luo let out a beast-like roar. Suddenly, a bloody light filled the air as Yun Luo turned into a ray of bloody light and charged out of the encirclement. "You 4 little bastards, just you wait. I will avenge my lost arm." Yun Luo's voice echoed in the sky, but he was already far away. Yun Luo had escaped. It's a pity that he got away. Li Xiaoyun sighed. Lu Ming's expression was calm. The 4 of them didn't have an overwhelming advantage against Yun Luo in the first place. How could it be so easy to kill her? Being able to leave behind an arm and injure her vitality was already pretty good. If the other party doesn't die, he will definitely seek revenge. "I won't accompany you," Gu Huashu sneered. He glanced at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing before his figure flashed and vanished into the horizon. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. This guy was really cautious. Once the battle ended, he immediately left. He was most likely afraid that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing would find trouble with him. To be honest, Lu Ming did not mind getting rid of him if he had the chance. Gu Huashu gave Lu Ming a very dangerous feeling. "May I know how I should address you two?" Li Xiaoyun cupped his fists at Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing and smiled. "Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing." Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing replied. "Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing? I've never heard of him." It seems that we've entered a golden age with endless geniuses. If the list of top 1,000 talents is rearranged now, I wonder if I'll be kicked out of it. Li Xiaoyun smiled bitterly. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing looked to be in their 20s, but their cultivation and combat strength shocked him. "Brotherly, you're too modest. I've heard of your name before." Lu Ming said politely. "What do you two plan to do next? Are you going to the chaotic astral sea as well?" Li Xiaoyun asked curiously. "That's right." Lu Ming nodded. There was no need to hide it. The Battle of Providence is approaching, and many geniuses have been mobilized. As far as I know, many geniuses have entered the chaotic astral sea recently to train themselves. After I've settled the matter of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution, I plan to explore the chaotic astral sea as well," Li Xiaoyun said with a smile. "Oh," Lu Ming nodded. Indeed, the chaotic astral sea was extremely chaotic. It was an unreasonable place where one could be attacked at any time. There was no shortage of life and death battles there. In such an environment, one could indeed improve and break through one's limits. If one did not break through, one would probably die. It was normal for many geniuses to enter the chaotic astral sea to train themselves. Lu Ming could not help but look forward to it. Li Xiaoyun was ranked 943 on the list of top 1,000 talents, dozens of places higher than Sheng Xing. His combat strength was much stronger than Sheng Xing's. Li Xiaoyun could easily defeat Sheng Xing. He was only dozens of places higher than Sheng Xing, but he was already so powerful. How powerful would the geniuses who were ranked higher be? Not to mention the geniuses who had entered the Sea of Soul realm. There must be many geniuses who were stronger than Li Xiaoyun in the Martial King realm. Lu Ming was eager to meet them. "Brotherly, we'll take our leave then," Lu Ming said. He was in a hurry to find a place to refine the blood essence. "All right, we'll have a drink when we meet again," Li Xiaoyun said with a smile. "Definitely." Lu Ming nodded, and then left with Xian Yanqing. Whoosh, whoosh. After Lu Ming and Xia Yanqing left, 2 figures appeared beside Li Xiaoyun and bowed. "Young master, send the news to the Emperor's Sky Divine Palace in the Yunfeng domain. Get someone to deal with the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Using innate blood essence to refine elixirs is an evil practice," Li Xiaoyun said coldly. "Yes," the 2 old men bowed. Lu Ming and Xia Nianqing flew toward the west. After flying for hundreds of thousands of miles, they landed on a mountain. The two of them planned to cultivate in seclusion here for a while. Xian Yanqing wanted to use the heavenly demon fruit to cultivate the heavenly demon force field. Lu Ming also wanted to refine the blood essence. Dandan, protect us, Lu Ming said. 10 rank 5 spiritual herbs. Dandan demanded an exorbitant price. Lu Ming threw 2 spiritual herbs to him and said, 2 spiritual herbs. Otherwise, none. Dandan had no choice but to grab 2 spiritual herbs and protect them. Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged and took out the heavenly demon fruit to cultivate. Lu Ming sat cross-legged 100 meters away. Rumble! Within the 9-dragon bloodline, the massive blood essence was being refined continuously. This time, there were more than 20 blood essences of greater success kings, including 8 peak-tier kings. The blood essence was simply too dense. The 9 dragons bloodline had already reached the limit of a rank 7 monarch bloodline. This time, it broke through. 8 silver chakras flashed, and the 9 dragons bloodline reached rank 8 monarch bloodline. Luckily, Xian Yanqing was also in seclusion. Otherwise, his jaw would have dropped. 9 dragons bloodline. 9 dragons. Why does it sound so familiar? Sigh, I can't remember. Dandan muttered as he chewed on a spiritual herb. Let's see if there are enough supreme-grade spiritual crystals. If there are enough, I can become a peak-tier king. A dozen interspatial rings appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Lu Min and Xian Yanqing each took 12 interspatial rings of the greater success kings of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution. Lu Ming sank his consciousness into the interspatial rings and gathered all the supreme-grade spiritual crystals together. Chapter 642. As expected of the storage rings of kings at the Great Success stage and Peak Kings, they were simply too rich. In total, there were more than 80 million supreme spiritual crystals in the 12 storage rings. 80 million peak-grade spiritual crystals was truly terrifying. Alchemy is truly profitable. Lu Ming sighed inwardly. Moreover, the people of the Cloud Sea Elixir Institution used the blood chi of infants to refine pills. Naturally, they would be able to earn more peak-grade spiritual crystals. Even peak kings and great success kings weren't that rich. Lu Ming estimated that Yun Luo's storage ring would definitely have more peak-grade spiritual crystals. It was a pity that Yun Luo had escaped. It's more than enough to become a peak king. After Lu Ming sorted out the peak-grade spiritual crystals, he looked at Xian Yanqing. At this moment, an invisible force field spread out from Xian Yanqing's body, covering an area of 100 meters. It was constantly vibrating and contracting. Xian Yanqing held the heavenly demon fruit in his hand. The heavenly demon fruit shone brightly and was absorbed by Xian Yanqing. It seemed that Xian Yanqing's cultivation wouldn't end anytime soon. With a thought, Lu Ming's body disappeared and entered the Temple of Paragon. His breakthrough would cause quite a commotion. If he was outside, it would most likely alert Xian Yanqing. Let's begin. With a wave of his hand, a huge pile of peak-grade spiritual crystals appeared. There were at least 1 million of them. Pung, pung. The 1 million peak-grade spiritual crystals exploded and turned into dense heaven and earth spiritual chi. The 9 dragons bloodline appeared. The 9 dragons bloodline had reached the 8th level king grade. Its body seemed to have grown larger, and its scales were dense. It looked more and more like the legendary true dragons. Opening its mouth, a terrifying devouring power erupted. The energy of the 1 million peak-grade spiritual crystals was sucked into the 9 dragons bloodline. Lu Ming circulated the true dragon battle technique and started cultivating. Breaking through to the peak king grade required a lot of energy. Furthermore, he had to condense his cyclone to the extreme in preparation for breaking through to the sea of Soul Realm. Therefore, a lot of supreme spiritual crystals were needed. The devouring and refining power of the 9 dragons' bloodline increased several times. It didn't take long for the 1 million supreme-grade spiritual crystals to be refined. Lu Ming took out another 1 million. Just like that, 1 million after another. Endless energy was accumulating. When Lu Ming had refined 18 million pieces of supreme spiritual crystals, the cyclone in his dantian had finally become extremely condensed. It was like a rotating liquid, like the eye of the sea. At this moment, a powerful aura rose from Lu Ming's body. He had broken through to the Peak King realm. Rumble. Circulating the true battle dragon art, his true essence surged. Lu Ming felt that the strength of his true essence was several times stronger than before, and Lu Ming's battle strength had naturally increased by a large margin. Lu Ming opened his eyes and revealed a satisfied smile. Peak King warriors were considered to be standing at the peak of King warriors. The next step would be to open up the spirit ocean and step into the Sea of Souls realm. However, this step wasn't that easy. First, he had to comprehend the intent of heaven and earth to the second level. Without the second level intent of heaven and earth, only death would await him if he tried to break through to the Sea of Souls realm. Only a little more than a day has passed after refining so many supreme-grade spiritual crystals. Let's go see how Xiao Qing's cultivation is going. With a thought, Lu Ming left the Temple of Paragon. Wang. As soon as Lu Ming appeared, he felt a powerful force field surging. He felt a huge pressure on his body. Lu Ming moved and retreated a few hundred meters before the pressure disappeared. The heavenly demon fruit in Xian Yanqing's hand had already disappeared. Her long hair fluttered in the wind as a lotus floated above her head. A beautiful woman sat cross-legged on the lotus. Powerful force fields constantly emanated from Xian Yanqing's body. Not simple. Dandan circled around Xian Yanqing, its eyes darting around as it sized up Xian Yanqing. 8 hours later, the force field around Xian Yanqing suddenly shrank and disappeared from her body. At this moment, Xian Yanqing opened her eyes. Xiao Qing, how was it? Did you break through the heavenly demon force field? Lu Ming walked over and smiled. Of course. How was it? Do you want to test its power? There was a sly smile at the corners of Xian Yanqing's lips. He stared at Lu Ming with evil intentions. Do you think you can defeat me just because you broke through? You'll be disappointed again. Lu Ming smiled confidently. Is that so? Then I'll give it a try. Xian Yanqing smiled. As soon as she finished speaking, she pressed her palms forward. Buzz! An incomparably powerful force field erupted and instantly enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt as if there was a majestic mountain pressing down on him. So strong. It's several times stronger than before. Lu Ming's eyes revealed a trace of amazement. Boom. In the next moment, a powerful aura erupted from Lu Ming's body. He circulated his true essence and combined the 3 essences of heaven and earth to expand the power of the heavenly demon force field. You've broken through in your cultivation. Xian Yanqing exclaimed in surprise. Of course. You've broken through, so how can I not? Lu Ming chuckled. Just in time. Destruction cut. Xian Yanqing shouted and pressed her palms together. A terrifying cutting power erupted from the heavenly demon force field. This cutting power was formed from the concept of destruction and the heavenly demon force field. It was incomparably sharp. Even a level 5 spiritual weapon would be cut apart. Lu Ming condensed a long spear with true essence in his hand. With the tip as the center, The long spear spun rapidly like a drill and drilled in Xian Yanqing's direction. Bang! Bang! With a rumble, the domain in front of him was broken. Lu Ming stepped forward and avoided Xian Yanqing's attack. If he wanted to defeat Xian Yanqing, he would first have to rush out of this domain and kill his way to Xian Yanqing. Little Qing, after I take him down, I'll have to reward you. Lu Ming's gaze swept over Xian Yanqing's body. You want to take me down? Dream on. Xian Yanqing shouted, and her bloodline erupted. Her slender jade-like hands pressed down again. A beautiful arm formed out of thin air and slapped down at Lu Ming. The terrifying palm energy swept towards Lu Ming like raging waves. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He didn't dare to be careless. He stabbed out with a spear, and a huge tricolor true dragon rushed out and collided with the beautiful palm. Boom! The earth trembled horribly. The terrain rose and fell. Violent energy swept in all directions. Lu Ming's body shook slightly, and he took 3 steps back. Xian Yanqing, on the other hand, took 3 steps back. They were evenly matched. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He was about to erupt his bloodline and fight with Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing withdrew her heavenly demon force field and said, "Stop, stop. Today's a draw." Stop. Lu Ming was a little speechless. Putting everything else aside, Xian Yanqing was a good opponent. Lu Ming wanted to erupt his bloodline and fight with all his strength, but Xian Yanqing stopped. Humph, you're a big man. Why are you so serious when fighting with a little girl like me? How petty. Who wants to fight with you?